It was much faster going down the cliff but also more dangerous. Xianxia didn't know what this rope was made of, but it wasn't slippery at all. She didn't have gloves since she had already lost it on the way. She had only slid down 200 meters and already felt the skin on her hands rip. Even so, Xianxia didn't dare to relax. The pain from her hand made her focus more. She slid down another 200 meters and suddenly felt her hands turn soft and weak. She had to find a slightly larger rock and rest on it. Her arms were soft and sour, but she knew that if she couldn't reach the bottom in one go, she wouldn't be able to keep up. She looked at her palm. It was red. Her flesh was exposed to the open air, but she didn't feel pain now. It was as though her hand was numb. She caught her breath and took out the remaining biscuits. She finished it all and drank all the remaining water before continuing sliding down. Xianxia didn't know how long she slid down for. When her arm was too sour to move, she rested for a while before continuing. She even celebrated that she had resting spots on this cliff. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to stay out for so long. The sky was getting dark. Xianxia estimating that she had been down nearly 1 kilometer. But she still didn't reach the bottom. When she got to the end of the rope, she froze. The rope wasn't long enough. She looked down. It was still white mist. She couldn't see the bottom, but she had nothing to go down with. She continued before due to her determination, but once she stopped now, she felt quite dizzy looking down. Did she really come from up there? If the rope wasn't long enough, she could only keep going down. She could slide down from so high, but it would be impossible for her to climb back up. She stopped on top of a rock and felt lost. She pulled the rope on top. She didn't know what to do next. Would she connect her own? What if it wasn't long enough as well? If only this rope was 200 meters longer. She looked at the top, which could no longer be seen. She subconsciously pulled the rope, hoping that it was just caught somewhere. But she knew this was impossible. She came from above after all. Just when she was helpless and was prepared to connect her 100-meter-long rope, her ropes suddenly loosened. Her heart skipped a beat and she looked at the rope. It was rolling down. She immediately realized that the place she secured her rope on had loosened. She immediately stuck herself to the cliff wall. She was thinking that if that big rock was brought down too, she would be dragged down the cliff and die. A huge rock fell from the top not far from Xianxia. The wind it brought blew up her hair. When Xianxia reacted, the huge rock had fallen to the bottom and made a heavy sound. Xianxia subconsciously looked at the rope on her waist. It was still very loose. She rejoiced. That meant she would arrive at the bottom soon. Thinking about this, Xianxia took off the rope from her waist, secured it on the rock, and started to slide down. She just went down 20 meters and saw the bottom. There was only a few meters left. She felt relieved. She actually saw some clothes hung on a branch. It didn't seem to happen long ago. Was that Yimo's clothes? She only thought about Yimo and got excited. Her hands softened and could no longer hold the rope. She fell down like that. At that moment, she thought, was she going to succeed or plummet to her death? Good thing was she knew Yimo was here. When she landed, she knew that even if the bottom wasn't covered with leaves, she wouldn't die since the ground was very soft. She finally arrived at the bottom. Xianxia carefully pulled out that short dagger and looked around. Other than the ragged cloth, she didn't see Yimo and slightly felt relieved. It was dark now, but the moonlight was good. However, at the bottom of the cliff there was only very fuzzy moonlight. Despite so, she could still see everything clearly. Although she still had some light from her torch, she didn't want to use it. She picked up the dagger and walked a few meters. There she saw a long snake. It was cut in half. The wounds were from not long ago. Xianxia froze. At that moment, she wanted to cry. Yimo was really here and he didn't die. But soon, she knew it wasn't that safe here. Since there was that snake there, it meant there was more. She didn't have Yimo's power. She had used up all her charms except for the fireball and the bead. Soon she saw some footprints. Although it was quite dark, she could see them clearly. Was it Yimo? Xianxia focused her mind and suppressed her excitement. She followed the steps carefully, and after walking out another 10 meters, The only bead in her hand glowed as repelled a black shadow. At this moment, she fuzzily saw a black shadow that looked like a cat. It didn't seem to have a tail. After it was repelled by the bead, it didn't run but kept staring at Ning Qingxue as though it was going to charge again. Ning Qingxue could only hold her dagger and stare at it. She knew she didn't have much power, and this black shadow wasn't something she could stop. Now that her only bead was gone, the only thing she could use to attack was the fireball. The black shadow was no different than the thing she encountered at the sky ditch. She could only see two eerie-looking green eyes. If the black shadow didn't attack her just then, she would have thought it was just two eyes staring at her. Even so, her skin startled to tingle as she got goosebumps, but she didn't have any other way. Looking at the horrifying eyes, Ning Qingxue could no longer endure the standoff with it. She immediately threw out the fireball and yelled Lin. Blast! The sound the fireball made in the silence was scary. Under the fire, the black shadow dashed away again and disappeared. Ning Qingxue froze. She just used her fireball like that. She didn't think it would really work. Although she knew the other two charms could be used, it wasn't so straightforward in her eyes like that. She just froze for a bit and realized that it was her chance to run. If that black shadow came back again, only death awaited her. The only thing she had now was a dagger, and that was to boost her courage. With the brightness caused by the fireball, Ning Qingxue soon saw a thorny brush. There was an obvious path ahead. Did Yemo make that? She didn't even think and started running, charging into the thorny path. At the end, there was a foul stench. Ning Qingxue quickly opened her mind light, and the scene in front of her eyes almost scared her to death. Yemo laid in a bloodied pool with a big snake. Ning Qingxue quickly walked up and helped Yemo up. At this moment, she saw that the snake was probably cut into multiple pieces by Yemo's sword. She felt his chest and learned that there was still a pulse. Finally, she was able to feel relieved. If Yemo really died, she didn't know what she would do. Yemo was her spiritual support. It was because he was here that she had such courage and determination to come here. If Yemo wasn't here, even if she had the courage to live, she would go crazy here. Plus, she didn't have the courage to live. Ning Qingxue struggled and pulled Yemo to an empty space near the cliff wall. She looked at Yemo in her arms and noticed that he was full of wounds like her. A few of them was very deep. She immediately started crying, not knowing what to do next. After a long while, she calmed down and rubbed her eyes. She carefully pressed Yemo's chest. She didn't know if this could wake him, but she had no other way. Yemo sliced the snake and actually fainted after relaxing. He fuzzily felt that someone was pushing his chest, so he subconsciously opened his eyes. Ning Qingxue? Yemo yelled out in shock. How was Ning Qingxue here? Was he dreaming? Hearing Yemo's voice, Ning Qingxue was like struck by lightning. Her movements stopped as she stared at Yemo in a daze. After half a beat, she rushed into his arms and started crying. All the fear, loss and loneliness were in the cries. Yemo looked at the Ning Qingxue, who had marks all over her body with extremely shriveled hair and messy clothes. He seemed to have understood something, but he just didn't know how she knew he was here. He opened his mouth and subconsciously put his arms around her. When he wanted to ask her something, he found she had fallen asleep in his arms with tears rolling down the side of her face. Yemo struggled and found that he was still powerless. It was probably because he exhausted himself too much. He carefully caressed Ning Qingxue's hair. It was very messy, but it still smelt nice. He didn't know how Ning Qingxue could arrive here. No one knew he came. If it was Han Yen, he wouldn't feel it strange, but he knew that even if Han Yen knew he fell off the cliff, she might not come. Even if Ning Qingxue knew he fell, how could she find this place? Shenong Jia wasn't really dangerous for him, but it was too dangerous for Ning Qingxue. It was a miracle she could reach here. Yemo really couldn't understand what supported her to come here. He felt her back and now realized that not only was her ligaments full of wounds, but so was her back. How much pain did she go through to come here? Yemo held up her hand. It was a bloodied mesh. There was not a patch of good flesh. Ning Qingxue seemed to be hurt in her dreams and frowned, but she still didn't wake up. At this moment, Yemo actually felt pain in his heart. He knew that Ning Qingxue had a good impression of him and might even be in love with him. He could tell by how she went to the desert last time. If Ning Qingxue went to Flowing Snake to repay her gratitude, then it wasn't that simple when she went to the desert. Now, she risked her life to come to the bottom of the cliff. Even if Yimo's heart was stone cold, he was touched by her actions. He once thought Ning Qingxue was just a pretty rich girl who was arrogant and thought they could never be in the same world. But now, he knew that he didn't completely understand this wealthy girl. Underneath her cold expression hid a fiery heart that was obstinate. Other than his master Luoying, who would treat him like this? It seemed he was too harsh to her before. Yimo felt her hair and remembered the words she said that night. I really want to call you husband, but I can't say it. I already married Yimo. That box is his wedding gift to me. Don't separate me with that box. There's a grass that I left for Yimo in the yard. If he comes, give this phone to him as well. If not, never mind. He thought about the moment when he left her in the desert, that disappointment and yearning in her eyes. It seemed that she had a lot to say. He remembered the bloodied silver heartgrass and the small medical case that she hugged even when she was about to die. Was that love? Yimo lost himself as he thought about this. At this moment, the moon was high up in the sky shooting down faint rays on Yimo and Ning Qingxue that made everything seem so tranquil. The morning sun couldn't completely shine into the bottom, but still a few rays passed through the mist. A wild crow's quack woke up Ning Qingxue. Yimo? As soon as she wanted to get up, she felt a pair of arms around her waist. Her clothes were tattered, and Yimo's arm was over her half-naked body. Ning Qingxue blushed but felt warm at heart. In these few days of terror, she only felt safe in Yimo's arms. She felt a fit of hunger. Why did Yimo still not move? Ning Qingxue just realized this. What happened to Yimo? She started to panic again. But soon, she discovered that Yimo just fainted again and was just asleep. He still had breathing, but his lips cracked heavily. He's thirsty? No, he probably lost a lot of blood. Ning Qingxue quickly got up and put Yimo in a comfortable position before standing up. She should find some water for him. Now, she regretted drinking all the water. She should have saved it for Yimo. However, she forgot that if she didn't take it, perhaps she wouldn't even make it here. Ning Qingxue walked over to the snake that was killed and picked up Yimo's sword. She just realized the snake was more than 6 meters long. She really didn't know how Yimo killed it. Ning Qingxue put the sword beside Yimo and prepared to walk through the thorny passage. But halfway through, she saw a black shadow dash. Even though it was daytime, she still couldn't see too clearly. She stopped her steps subconsciously as she recalled the eerie green eyes that gave her quite the fright last night. She had no defense now. If she went out, it would be suicide? She walked back again. If she died, what would happen to Yimo? Although she didn't know why the black shadow didn't dare to walk into the thorny brush, but she still used the sword to block the way with some thorny brush. There was a shadow that could dash to her in an instant, and Ning Qingxue no longer dared to go out. Ning Qingxue turned around and examined the place. The thorny brush covered quite a large area, around 5 to 6 acres. She looked at the dead snake and thought if this place was the snake's territory so other things didn't dare to come. As the sun gradually rose, Ning Qingxue saw more clearly. A few meters out, there were a few trees on the cliff face, but the smallest one was 4 meters tall. There were a few green fruits on the tree about the size of eggs. Other than those, there didn't seem to be anything edible elsewhere. She looked at Yimo, who was still unconscious, and started to dig on the cliff face. Ning Qingxue didn't expect the dagger to be so sharp that it wasn't hard digging into stone. She subconsciously looked at it. She picked it up at the top of the cliff but didn't expect it to be this sharp. For meters high wasn't easy, but with the help of the dagger, she climbed up quickly. There were 5 fruits altogether. Only 2 was half red, and the other 3 were still green. Although she picked 5, she didn't know if they were edible. She had never seen this fruit before. It looked like peaches, but she ate peaches yesterday and they didn't look like this. She bit one. Tasted sweet and was quite watery. She wanted to eat more after taking a bite, but she knew it was probably because she was too hungry. She resisted the urge to eat the rest and put it aside. After a while, she felt she was okay. This meant the fruit wasn't poisonous. Then, she took the fruit and walked up to Emo and carefully helped him up. It was just like yesterday. She continued to press on his chest. After a while, Emo woke up and looked apologetically at Xianxia. He didn't talk. He knew he had lost a lot of blood. If he didn't have a way to recover his qi, the result would be unknown. You're awake, quickly eat something. I think you're a bit dehydrated now. Xianxia gave the fruits to Emo in joy. Emo knew that he had to eat something and took one and started eating. Where did you get this? It tastes really good. Have you eaten? Emo felt he had recovered some and asked in surprise. I've already eaten, I just don't like the taste of the fruit. Keep eating, there's another 4. Xianxia passed the rest of them to Emo. He looked at Xianxia's lips and saw that she really seemed to have eaten. Then, he was rest assured and ate the remaining fruits. But at the 5th one, he saw this one seemed to have been bitten once. He looked at her in surprise. When Emo looked at her, Xianxia quickly said, I ate a few just then. I don't really like the taste. I just bit one and I don't want it. You wouldn't mind me, right? Emo seemed to have understood something and smiled. He didn't talk. Although he didn't know how many Xianxia ate. He knew that Xianxia wouldn't dislike the fruit. Although it was a bit bitter, it still tasted pretty good. However, he didn't pass it back. If he didn't recover, it would be too dangerous here. Seeing Emo finish the 5th one, Xianxia finally let out a gasp of relief. She stood up and said, I'll go out and see if there's anything else that is edible. She just spoke one sentence and wobbled, almost falling over. She knew that she was too exhausted and couldn't hold much longer. Xianxia turned around and gave Emo a smile that she was okay. She wanted to find a place to rest and see if she could climb up to that tree 7 or 8 meters high. However, Emo stood up slowly and held on Xianxia's shoulder. He said apologetically, Sorry, Xianxia, although I don't know how you know I'm here, but I probably brought this trouble on you. Xianxia shook and slowly turned around. It was the first time Emo spoke to her so gently. She could no longer resist the yearning and nervousness in her heart, and rushed into Emo's arms. Emo, I. Emo sighed, of course, he understood Xianxia's feelings. But at this moment, he finally understood how weak Xianxia was. Her legs were shaking, so it was obvious it was hard even for her to stand. Xianxia, talk later. If you trust me, listen to me and sit down for a while. Emo carefully helped her sit. I'll listen to you. Xianxia just spoke a few words and almost fell asleep. Emo knew she was too exhausted and now wasn't the time to disturb her rest. He put her down and picked up the sword. He walked to the cliff and saw there were holes dug out by her. It seemed she climbed up here to pick the fruit. Emo recovered some stamina and climbed up to the 7-meter-high tree. There were just 5 egg-sized fruits. Although there were more trees up, Emo knew that his body wouldn't be able to keep up if he went higher. The main thing was Xianxia needed something to eat. After picking all 5, Emo looked up. The higher tree also had 5 fruits. It seemed that this tree can only have 5 fruits at a time. Xianxia said she ate a lot and even disliked it. He knew she was lying to him. At this moment, Emo's heart felt tender towards her. Sometimes it was really hard to understand a person. If he just left from Ninghai, then the two would have no connections. Perhaps he would never know that Xianxia had this side to her. When Emo came back, he saw that Xianxia was already awake and struggling to get up. She was too weak. Emo quickly came and helped her up while taking out 5 fruits and passing it to her. You eat some. You went to pick the fruit at the cliff face? Xianxia immediately knew that Emo must have went up to pick the fruit. Emo nodded. You must be really hungry. Eat something first. Xianxia nodded and took 2 and said, 2 is enough for me. Eat the rest. Emo subconsciously shook his head and said, I've already eaten. Xianxia froze for a moment and suddenly laughed. But soon, her eyes went red and looked at Emo for a moment before saying, I know there are only 5 on every tree. I counted. There are 5 here, you must have not eaten unless you picked 2 trees. But I know you only picked one, right? Emo nodded awkwardly and said, didn't you say you ate before? But you also gave me 5. Ning Qingxue blushed and bit a fruit before saying in a soft voice, I ate. Didn't you see one was bitten by me? Why did you just take one bite? And how did you know I just picked 5 and came back? Emo was surprised and asked, I know. Ning Qingxue just spoke those words and didn't explain. Emo knew she only answered the latter question very confusingly, but she didn't answer the former question. You know. Emo repeated, but he soon understood that he was worried about Ning Qingxue and wouldn't climb higher for more fruits. He would take it back and get it for her to eat, and only then would he feel relieved. Since Ning Qingxue said she knew, it meant that she understood what he was like. Emo looked at Ning Qingxue, who was still biting the fruit. He had begun to understand why Ning Qingxue chased him all the way here. In her heart, he was trusted to this degree. At this moment, Emo didn't know what to say. The manner in which Ning Qingxue ate was very serene, making Emo reminisce the time when they ate together at Ninghai. She has always been like this. She didn't talk much, but there was not much difference with the way they think. Emo's eyes glanced upon her chest. Her clothes were torn heavily, and her chest also had many wounds. Part of the snowy white of her chest were showing, making Emo think back to the night he treated her. Ning Qingxue finished a fruit and looked at Emo, then realized the latter was staring at her chest. She blushed and subconsciously blocked her chest with her hands. She didn't feel annoyed, just embarrassed. Emo smiled and took back his gaze, but then he suddenly thought, what if her wounds got infected? He was a cultivator and he wasn't afraid of an infection, but what about Ning Qingxue? Suddenly, his heart shook. He finally understood why Ning Qingxue bit the fruit. She was afraid he would be poisoned. It must be that. She didn't know if the fruit was poisonous and took a bite first. Then she gave it to him. Qingxue. Emo suddenly called. Ning Qingxue looked at Emo with confusion. Emo suddenly reached out his hand and brought her into his arms. Ning Qingxue's heart was filled with surprise and joy. It was the first time Emo hugged her closely in her arms. Although she was a little embarrassed, she didn't struggle. I'm just a poor person, actually. Why are you still like this? You can find someone better than me. Emo's mouth was held by Ning Qingxue. After half a beat, Ning Qingxue said, because I like you, even if you're that, I don't care. I just want to be with you. Before Ning Qingxue finished, she felt there was something hard sticking against her back. Emo was touched, and he was holding a curvaceous beauty like Ning Qingxue in his arms when she wasn't even properly dressed. There was no way he wouldn't have a biological reaction. Ning Qingxue hadn't experienced this adult thing. Although she was talking about Emo's impotence, she didn't realize what was happening at the first moment. She also grabbed like Yun Bing, but as soon as she grabbed, she immediately understood what was happening. She quickly let go and buried her face in Emo's arms. Her heart was beating rapidly. Although she had never done it, she still knew about this. However, she didn't expect Emo to be normal, was it? At this moment, she realized that the Yi family wanted to kick Emo away, and that's why they said Emo was impotent. He was very normal, yet she thought he was impotent before. That was why she dared to marry and live with him. If she knew he wasn't impotent, would she dare to live with him? Thinking about this, she actually thanked the Yi family. Although Emo was a bit awkward, he was quite helpless towards something like this. He was a young man, with a half-naked pretty lady in his arms. If he didn't have a reaction, that would be abnormal. He could only say, sorry, that's not something I can control. Seeing that Emo actually tried to make an excuse, Ning Qingxue was more embarrassed. She could only quietly say, you're bad. Seeing Emo not reply for a while, Ning Qingxue thought Emo was angry and quickly raised her head to see Emo staring right at her. She was startled and immediately put her head back down like an ostrich. She said quietly, I really like it, but just not now after we go back. Emo heart skipped. He didn't even hear the latter half of her sentence. His lust fire immediately dissipated. Ning Qingxue was sitting on him, and of course, she knew Emo no longer was in the mood. She looked at Emo in confusion. Emo said apologetically, Xianxia, sorry. Hearing Yimo's words, Ning Qingshua's face turned pale again as she struggled to sit up. Seeing Ning Qingshua's face turn pale again, he immediately knew how much he weighed in her heart. He quickly hugged her. Ning Qingxue wanted to sit up but was hugged by Yimo again. She didn't struggle and wiped her eyes. She didn't talk nor bite the fruit in her hand. It had to come and he couldn't avoid it. Yimo sighed and focused before saying, Qingxue, you treated me like this and I quite like you as well. If there wasn't Luoying and I can't reach a higher level here anyways, I might as well live with you for the rest of my life. But sometimes, I really can't do it because there still is a Luoying in my heart. If I can't find her, I can't do anything that will betray her. Ning Qingxue looked up and said in confusion, Luoying? Who is she? Yimo fell into a long silence. He felt if he didn't say this, he would be trespassing Ning Qingshue's feelings for him. After half a beat, he still said, Luo Ying's was my woman in my past life. Perhaps she's in another world or perhaps she's not far from me. But I can't find her. Qingxue. Do you think I would lie to you and make up another girl? Ning Qingxue shook her head and said with certainty, No. If it was before, she would turn away without hesitation, but she had experienced too much. Magical artifact, charms, Shinong Jia sky ditches, invisible screams. At this moment, Ning Qingxue was no longer the girl who laughed at Su Jingwen talking about charms. She had matured too much. Whether it was experience or her understanding of love, she was no longer the Ning Qingxue before. If it was the her before, she would find people and rescue Yimo through a helicopter. But now she could realize about the Song family. If it was her before, she wouldn't venture into danger many times by herself for an unpromised love. But now, she did it without hesitation. Thank you, Qingxue. Thanks for believing me. Yimo hugged Ning Qingxue closely with gratitude. Then, he suddenly said, I feel Luoying is somewhere and I can find her for sure. If it wasn't for her, there wouldn't be me. She cares about me just like you. Yimo didn't talk about what happened and Ning Qingxue didn't ask either. For some things, one only had to understand mentally. However, Ning Qingxue raised her head and looked at Yimo. I know. I'm happy you can understand that I care about you just like her. But can you promise me one thing? Yimo nodded and said, Tell me, as long as it's something I can do. Ning Qingshue's eyes seemed lost for a second as though thinking about something very distant. Yimo didn't rush her. After a while, she faintly said, If you find Luoying one day, will you forget about me? Will you bring me to see her? Yimo shook his head. No, if the heavens really let me find her, perhaps we will never get the chance to go back to where we want. If you still want, I can bring you to see her. Ning Qingxue lowered her head and said after a long while, What if Sister Luoying don't want to see me? Her voice seemed distant and lost. She didn't know whether what she did was right or wrong, or did she love someone who couldn't belong to her? So what if Luoying was willing to see her? Could Yimo have two wives at the same time? She suddenly felt she shouldn't have asked all that. Yimo did so much for her. Everything was good as long as he was fine, so why would she mind about other things? Why ask for that? Ning Qingxue felt she was making things hard for Yimo and wanted to talk about something else. But Yimo smiled and casually replied, She will. Yimo knew that his master definitely wouldn't want to see someone who saved his life unless she wasn't Luoying. Ning Qingshue's heart shook. She will. These short two words harbored such trust and knowledge of each other. If one day someone asked about her to Yimo, would he say she will? Seeing that Ning Qingxue seemed a little lost, Yimo picked up another fruit and gave it to her. Eat them. I will find a place to rest. When I recover, I will take you out. Ning Qingxue subconsciously took the fruit. Did she want to go out? She looked at Yimo who was holding her and had a sudden thought. It would be pretty good to stay with him here forever and not go out. But then she immediately shook her head. Such a thought was too selfish. Ning Qingxue just ate 3 and refused to eat more. Yimo could only finish the remaining 2. Yimo, I have some rope outside. There's something cat-like that is very strong. I don't dare to go out. Ning Qingxue recovered some energy and saw that Yimo wanted to pick the rest of the fruit. She was afraid something would happen to him, so she immediately said. Emo shook his head. No need, I will think of a way. I'll rest first. The rest of the trees are too high, you shouldn't go up. Ning Qingxue nodded. She trusted Emo a lot. But if Emo still couldn't move, she would still try to get up. But now, if she fell down, perhaps she would be a burden to Emo even more. I'll teach you some koju and ways to use qi. Try it, if you can't, never mind. After having a thought, Emo still decided to teach cultivation technique to Ning Qingxue. If she didn't have a spiritual root, then never mind. If she did, she could cultivate. Hearing the things Emo taught her, Ning Qingxue thought, was this the things he was cultivating? And that charm, was it all due to this? But Ning Qingxue knew now wasn't the time to ask him. When Emo was recovered and he still wanted to discuss it, he would certainly tell her everything. Emo thought that once he recovered his spirit sense, there were plenty of things in his ring. He wouldn't even care about a few fruits. Ning Qingxue started to sit down and attempt the koju Emo told her. Emo stood up and looked around, ensuring there was no danger here. This place might be the hive of that snake, so other small animals didn't dare to come. Emo also found a place near Ning Qingxue and started to run the qi inside his body. His dantian still felt pain, but it was much better than yesterday. Emo rejoiced. He didn't know if it was due to those fruits, but he quickly started to use his qi to recover his wounds. After a while, he felt his body feel lighter. The long-missed spirit sense returned to him. Emo resisted his joy and took out some pills from his ring and ate it. After that, his wounds started to heal in an extremely fast fashion, to the point that small scabs even started to disappear. After a while, Emo felt a fresh sense struck him. He was very happy, but he didn't dare to relax. After running a few more cultivation circuits, Emo released his breath and opened his eyes. He had reached the middle stage of Stage 3 Qi gathering. It was rather astounding progress being able to progress such a step in such a spirit qi devoid world, despite it being a very small step. If he continued at this speed, perhaps he could reach foundation establishment before he died of old age. It seemed that it was due to the fruit, but Emo knew it was just a normal fruit, and it didn't have any spirit qi on it. As such, he thought perhaps it was due to the potential he activated between life and death. Emo couldn't understand it, so he just didn't bother thinking more about it. At this moment, not only had his spirit sense fully recovered, but his qi also improved a lot. Emo stood up and looked at Ning Qingxue. He was astonished. She just started cultivating, but she already had qi revolving in her body. This meant that she successfully drew qi from the surrounding and started her cultivation circuits. He was only testing to see if she had spirit root by letting her cultivate, but the fact was, not only did she have spirit root, but it was countless times better than his. He looked at the sun. It had only been 5 hours at most, but she was almost reaching into qi gathering state. This was too absurd. Emo thought about the heaven spirit root he kicked. Was Ning Qingxue also the same? Thinking about this, Emo didn't dare to startle her and carefully stayed away, setting up a tent and taking out a gas stove. He started to cook. Ning Qingxue felt as though she was floating in the clouds. She felt comfortable everywhere. She opened her eyes and moved her hands and feet. She had a surprising discovery that not only was she spiritually full but also physically full. However, she still felt that she was starving. Ning Qingxue looked up and saw Emo was also looking at her. His eyes showed joy and surprise. Ah! Ning Qingxue just wanted to talk to Emo. But she realized she was covered in dirt secreted from her body. She screamed in shock. Don't look at me. Turn around. She didn't want her to be seen by Emo like this. Emo smiled. Close your eyes. I'll help you wash. What are you saying? Ning Qingxue was shocked by Emo's words. But then she realized Emo said he would help her wash. But there wasn't even drinking water here. How was she going to be washed? But she still closed her eyes out of trust for Emo, seeing Ning Qingxue close her eyes. Emo used water ball magic to splash onto her. Ning Qingxue felt a coolness. It was water? Where did Emo get water from? She wanted to open her eyes, but she remembered Emo's words and didn't open her eyes. She was afraid that if she did, Emo's plan would fail. Okay. Emo had completely washed Ning Qingshue's body everywhere. After Ning Qingxue drew qi into her body, all the wounds on her body disappeared. Ning Qingxue opened her eyes and made the surprising discovery that all the grime and wounds had disappeared. There was only white skin left. Emo. She looked up with joy and surprise to see Emo stare at her stiffly. Soon, she realized that what remained of her clothes stuck to her skin, showcasing her curves. Even her pink bras were able to be clearly seen. This bad egg. Ning Qingxue quickly turned around but remembered Emo just helped her wash. Just when she didn't know what to do, she heard Emo say, "There's a set of my clothes, you can change into it. I'll go somewhere else for now." When Emo left, he was thinking how unexpected it was that Ning Qingshue's body would be so good. He really couldn't tell before. Now that she was splashed by water, her wonderful body was perfectly outlined. He could even see the curves on her ass. His heartbeat rose and he quickly left. When Ning Qingxue turned around, she really saw a set of Emo's clothes. Where did this come from? At this moment, she actually forgot about embarrassment and just stared at the clothes. But she soon knew that she should change her clothes first. Just as Ning Qingxue finished changing her clothes, Emo appeared in front of her. She even suspected Emo was staring at her the whole time. Before she had the chance to ask, she smelled food. She smiled bitterly, which made it seem like she was really starving. "Let's go eat." Emo grabbed Ning Qingshue's hand without the slightest awkwardness. A warm feeling rose up in Ning Qingshue's heart. Regardless of whether he had that Luo Ying, there was her in his heart now. Emo put down her hand and looked at Ning Qingxue, who was dumbfounded. He knew she must have a lot of questions. What is this? Ning Qingxue looked at the tent and warm food and thought about the water Emo used to give her a shower. She was shocked. "I don't know how to tell you now, but you will know in the future for sure," Emo said awkwardly. Ning Qingxue eased up and thought, was it related to cultivation? She didn't ask when Emo didn't want to continue. Her curiosity wasn't big. After experiencing so many strange things, she had gotten used to it. After food, Emo packed the things up and asked Ning Qingxue, "Do we leave now or tomorrow?" Ning Qingxue hesitated, but after seeing that Emo was really asking for her opinion, she was quite happy and even felt staying here was not so bad. "How about tomorrow at night? Ning Qingxue thought about how she went through the forest at night and still felt scared. She would rather not have that feeling again. Emo nodded. "Okay. Let's go tomorrow morning." Then Emo saw that Ning Qingxue still had a frightened expression. He hesitated before asking, "How did you know I fell off the cliff? And when you came, were you scared?" Ning Qingxue nodded. "I was quite scared these few days, but after you taught me how to cultivate, I no longer have that feeling." "Give me your hand," Emo said as he reached out his hand to Ning Qingxue. Ning Qingxue nodded, walked in front of Emo, and gave him her hand. Emo grabbed her hand and felt this sense of fear, but it was gradually disappearing. Emo dispelled the remaining yin qi before gasping a sigh of relief. Even if he didn't help, Ning Qingxue would have gotten rid of it herself if she continued cultivating. But now that he cleansed it, he felt more secure at heart. "You're too bold. There are too many hidden dangers here. I really don't know how you got here," Emo said, still concerned about Ning Qingxue. Ning Qingxue told him what she saw in the telescope as well as going back to Ninghai and when she was attacked on their way. Emo frowned. The horrifying scream at the sky ditch? Unseen coldness? What was that? Even Emo had never met such things before. There really was too much unknown things in the world. He thought how Ning Qingxue, a girl, dared to face such horrors and run into the Shin Nong Jia again and felt warm at heart. For another girl, they wouldn't do this no matter what, much less walk alone in the forest at night. "Qingxue." Emo was touched and hugged Ning Qingxue in his arms. If it wasn't for Ning Qingxue, he might not be able to wake up. Ning Qingxue was cleansed up by Emo's qi and felt very lazy yet comfortable. She relaxed in Emo's arms and didn't even want to talk. She just wanted to be like this forever. After a while, Ning Qingxue thought of Su Jingwen's bracelet and said, "I took 3 beads from Su Jingwen's bracelet. If possible, can you help me make some for her?" Emo caressed Ning Qingshua's hair and immediately agreed. These things were useless against masters, but for normal attacks they could still defend against them. Plus, he made them when he was stage 1. Now, he was stage 3, so the things he made would be stronger. Seeing that Emo agreed to her request, Ning Qingxue no longer talked and just enjoyed the peace and safety in Yemo's arms. After some time, Emo felt Ning Qingxue seemed to be asleep. He took out a foldable bed and put Ning Qingxue on it before taking one of his jacket and putting it on her. Then he left the tent. He took out good quality jade and made a bracelet for Su Jingguan. He was no longer poverty-stricken now and used 12 beads for this bracelet. Its defensive powers were much better than before. Then he used the remaining dark jade and some deep sea button wood to make a necklace with strong evil repellent powers. Although he wasn't scared of those evil spirits even if he didn't have his spirit sense, Ning Qingxue was still susceptible to them. Luckily, he didn't take his box away. If he did, Ning Qingxue probably wouldn't be alive now. After doing all these, the day still wasn't bright. Seeing that Ning Qingxue was fast asleep, he didn't disturb her. She was too tense for the past few days, and now that she relaxed, she needed good rest. Emo walked. He wanted to see if there was a spirit-sensing stone here Emo Kong talked about, or the 1,000-year lotus seed heart. However, Emo was disappointed. He searched the entire night and couldn't find anything. However, he didn't believe Emo Kong would lie to him. It seemed the way he got down the cliff wasn't right, since there were 2 other sides to the cliff. In the morning, Ning Qingxue was full of spirit again. She found herself on a bed with Yi Mo's clothes on her. She felt touched but thought about that Luo Ying and felt anxious. If Yi Mo found Luo Ying, would he disappear from her sight again? Then she thought about her aunt. Yi Mo was in the same tent with her, but she shook her head quickly. She was in the same tent with Yi Mo now as well? Yi Mo didn't do anything to her. He was a man of principle. Perhaps she liked this charisma of him. Ning Qingxue suddenly thought of Qi Wanqing, who went to England to study. Her grandma told her to pursue happiness. Ning Qingxue thought of this sentence and seemed to understand it. You're awake. Let's eat something and go. Just when Ning Qingxue was still lost in thought, Yi Mo came into the tent. Before Yi Mo finished, he stopped. The morning ray shone randomly onto Ning Qingshue's body, making her seem lazy yet enticing. The thin virgin hair next to her ears could be seen clearly, making her seem stunningly beautiful. Seeing that Yi Mo was stunned looking at her, Ning Qingxue looked down in embarrassment. She was scared of Yi Mo coming. She knew that she had no rejection of Yi Mo at all. In the depths of her heart, she hoped that Yi Mo would come over and put her in his arms. Yi Mo walked over and gently put Ning Qingxue in his arms. Ning Qingxue stuck closely to Yi Mo's chest. Her heart was thumping hard. At this moment, her thoughts were in a mess, and she didn't know what she should think about. She could even hear her heart beating quickly. She didn't know if Yi Mo could hear it too. She just wanted to control it, but found that her heart wouldn't listen to her. Of course, Yi Mo could feel Ning Qingshue's heartbeat, though he didn't know why her heart was beating so fast. She gradually became soft and hot in his arms. Even though Yi Mo haven't done it before, he kind of understood what was happening. An aromatic smell emanated from Ning Qingshue's body with heat as it rushed into Yi Mo's nose. Yi Mo almost couldn't hold it. Ning Qingxue also heard Yi Mo's breathing become coarse, which caused her heart to beat even faster. She wanted to get out from Yi Mo's arms, but she discovered that she had no strength left at all. In the end, she just hugged Yi Mo's waist. If Yi Mo was going to do something, she would let him be. She was his wife anyways. Regardless whether it was real or fake, she wouldn't mind. Feeling Ning Qingxue go deeper into his arms, Yi Mo focused his mind and exhaled. Before he found Luo Ying, he couldn't do anything that would betray her. Qingxue, I made this last night. Bring it to Jingguan. Yi Mo took out the bracelet and ruined the awkward moment. Ning Qingxue felt relieved and was a little grateful to Yi Mo. But at the same time, there was this faint disappointment in her heart. She couldn't even explain her feelings. But now that Yi Mo changed the topic, she quickly sat up, brushed her hair aside and picked up the bracelet Yi Mo passed over. This bracelet is so exquisite, Ning Qingxue exclaimed and had forgotten about what just happened. She subconsciously looked at Yimo's hand. There was only this bracelet, nothing else. She was a little disappointed since Yimo didn't give anything to her. However, she quickly adjusted her mood and played with this bracelet around. Meanwhile, she was thinking, Jingwen must love this bracelet to death. There was a faint aura on it and a serene feeling. This is for you. I'll help you wear it. Yimo took out a necklace. Ning Qingxue quickly put away the bracelet and cupped the necklace with her 2 hands. She was ashamed of her thoughts before. How could Yimo not have anything for her? The box from before, although Yimo didn't say it, but he gave it to her. It's so pretty. Ning Qingxue cupped the necklace. She counted the jade beads that total 52. This necklace was countless times better in both quality and beauty than the bracelet. Ning Qingxue held that in her hands and felt comfortable and serene. Yimo, thank you. This is the prettiest present I got. Ning Qingxue couldn't resist the excitement and rushed into Yimo's arms again. Yimo's just quenched fire was suddenly reignited by Ning Qingxue. He looked down and saw the opening at Ning Qingxue's collar, revealing the deep white trench. He couldn't help to reach his hand inside. Yimo. Ning Qingxue looked up. She was exploding with joy after receiving the necklace crafted by Yimo himself. She just wanted Yimo to help her put it on, but saw Yimo put his hands through her collar. She subconsciously screamed, but as soon as she did, she regretted it. Yimo was startled. He found his hands had touched Ning Qingxue's chest. It was soft and smooth, and he almost couldn't control himself. If Ning Qingxue didn't scream, perhaps he would have grabbed hold of it. He quickly let go of his hands and looked apologetically and awkwardly at Ning Qingxue. After a long while, he said, "Sorry, I almost couldn't control myself." Ning Qingxue's face was bursting with redness. She was a little annoyed. This idiot, if you want to touch it, then touch it. Why say it out? Why talk about it? She buried her head into Yimo's chest again. She was hopeful and joyful, but a little worried at the same time. Her feelings were very confused. But soon, she decided that since Yimo did that, it meant that he liked her too. Otherwise, he wouldn't be like that. When he was treating her wounds and she took off her shirt, he didn't do anything to her. But now it meant that he liked her. Ning Qingxue waited a while but didn't feel Yimo move again. She looked up with confusion but just saw Yimo looking at her with awkwardness of his face. Ning Qingxue opened her mouth and wanted to say she didn't mind, but she really couldn't. She cursed at Yimo for being so dumb. Did she have to ask for it? I'll help you put this on. Yimo broke the awkwardness and took the necklace from Ning Qingxue's hands and helped her put it on. Is it pretty? Ning Qingxue looked and asked. Very pretty, Yimo praised from the bottom of his heart. The beads he used pearls and resonated with Ning Qingxue's skin color. Ning Qingxue, who was already extremely pretty, was made more royal and gorgeous with this necklace. It's really pretty, thank you Yimo. Ning Qingxue looked at the necklace that reflected of white luminosity. The more she looked, the more she liked it. Ning Qingxue's unintentional actions almost made Yimo unable to control himself. But he thought about Luoying and resisted his urges. He then took out water and breakfast. The two finished breakfast and Yimo packed everything up before carrying Ning Qingxue on his back and tying her to himself. Then he was about to leave. Ning Qingxue felt warm and safe on Yimo's back. It was like heaven compared to her walking in the forest by herself at night. Be careful. There's this cat-like thing which seems to be very strong, Ning Qingxue reminded. Yimo smiled. I already killed it last night. I don't know what animal it is, but it's certainly very fast. I went for it last night because it almost killed you. As such, the first thing I did last night was to kill that guy. As he spoke, he felt the softness of Ning Qingxue's body, causing his heart to burn with fire. He thought his self-control was getting worse and worse. If he used this mentality to Foundation establishment, he wouldn't succeed for sure. Hearing Yimo's words, Ning Qingxue felt warm at heart and just made a low sound and stopped talking. After a long while, she continued, Actually, I wasn't angry in the morning. In fact, I also like... Her voice got low until even Yimo couldn't hear it. Just when Yimo wanted to talk, he stopped. There were two bloodied bodies at his feet, Obviously they fell from the top of the cliff not long ago. Emo's heart sunk. There seemed to be more people here. He was scared that Ning Qingxue would be frightened by this and immediately said, "Qingxue, close your eyes first. Open them after we go up." Ning Qingxue didn't need Emo to remind her. She had closed her eyes already. As long as she was with Emo, she wouldn't worry about anything else. Emo walked towards where Ning Qingxue came down and put the rope in his ring. It seemed not bad. He didn't know what it was made from. Since there were people up there, he needed to be careful. If there came another Earth-level master like Bienpe, he would be no match for him even though he just got a little power boost, much less now that he was carrying Ning Qingxue. Emo looked up and saw nothing but mist. Other than some sunlight shining down, he couldn't see anything. He really didn't know how Ning Qingxue got down. A girl like her could come to this step. Regardless of whether he found Luo Ying in the end, Emo had made up his mind that he wouldn't let this girl on his back get hurt for her entire life. This cliff wasn't hard for Emo. Even though he was carrying Ning Qingxue, it wasn't hard if he wanted to go up. After all, unlike ordinary ancient martial artists, he had wind-controlling technique. This was why both he and Bienpe fell off the cliff, but Bienpe was killed by him. If it was on the cliff, he was no match for Bienpe. But once both of them fell off, he could kill Bienpe. This was the difference between ancient martial artists and Dao cultivators. The 1-kilometer-high cliff was very steep, but it wasn't hard for Emo at all. He used wind-controlling technique and he seemed to be blown up by the wind onto a rock surface. He paused for a moment and used another one onto a higher rock. After tens of times repeating this, he was a few hundred meters high. Ning Qingxue felt wind brush past and subconsciously opened her eyes but realized she was flying on Emo's back. Even the mist was under her feet. For a moment, she forgot about her fear of heights and had an impulse for wanting to fly. But soon, she looked down and felt dizzy. They were already this high. This cliff was so high, and she really didn't know how she got down last night. Ning Qingxue was sure that if she had to come down again, she wouldn't dare. She actually did all this last night. The more she thought, the more she felt this wasn't something she did. She subconsciously hugged Emo closer. She felt extremely safe on Emo's back. Perhaps only this man would make her feel safe and sound. Emo noticed Ning Qingxue's movements, so he turned around and said, "Don't be scared. There might be people at the top. We need to be careful." I'm not scared when I'm with you," Ning Qingxue immediately replied. Emo took a small break and used wind-controlling technique again another 100 times before stopping. He could faintly hear fighting at the top of the cliff. Emo thought there were people there indeed. It seemed quite a lot of people knew about the red leaf pumpkin fruit, but he just didn't know what sort of level of people came this time. When Emo rose up another 200 meters, he could clearly scan the two fighting at the top. One was a man in his 50s, had triangular eyes and a bald head. The other one was a nun in her 30s. She seemed very pretty but cold and aloof. She had horsetail whisk as her weapon, and each of her attacks were aimed at the Baldy's vitals. The Baldy's sword wasn't any bit weaker than the woman's horsetail whisk. Seeing the two fight, Emo was shocked. From the way they fought, Emo knew they weren't worse than Bienpe. 2 Earth-level masters? Emo was shocked. One was already too much for him, but now there was 2. If he was caught, he would certainly be dead. The 2 people both seemed to have felt Emo's spirit sense and both looked at Emo's position. Emo's heart sunk. Not good. He was caught, no doubt about that. Emo even stopped breathing and took back his spirit sense. The fighting sound still came here, but Emo could tell they stopped fighting with their lives. Their fighting was shifting over here gradually. Obviously, they had come to a tacit agreement to eliminate the outside influence. What to do? Emo searched for a way desperately. At this time, if he was stopped by the 2, he would die for sure. He surely couldn't run away from 2 Earth-level masters. The sound was getting near Emo. Emo suddenly had an idea. He didn't go down and went up instead. He didn't use wind-controlling technique but took out a climbing metal claw and climbed up carefully. There was indeed someone. The 2 Earth-level masters had seen Emo, but they didn't expect Emo to be carrying a woman on his back. They stopped fighting. Their thoughts were the same. They had to eliminate Emo first regardless of who he was. Emo stopped pretending as though he just saw there was someone there. He subconsciously stopped his movements and stared at them. A brief moment later, he screamed and fell down like a shooting star, soon disappearing in the mist. Humph! Just an insect, the Baldy sneered. His long sword started attacking with full power again towards the nun. He thought that even if he suddenly fell, he wouldn't be able to live, much less someone so young with a woman on his back. The nun's horsetail whisk also fought against the sword. They returned to fighting with their lives as though they didn't see Emo fall down the cliff. The moment Emo fell, Ning Qingshua's heart went to her throat, but she soon recovered. She was very satisfied if she died with Emo. But things took a turn for the unexpected. When the two fell below the mist, Emo stood accurately on a rock. After a while, he heard more fighting noise. Emo said, "Qingxue, don't talk. We were found by two strong guys on the cliff. I need to think of a way to run away without them knowing." Ning Qingxue had her arms around Emo. She had the joy of sudden life. Although she didn't regret dying with Emo, if she could live with him, why would she want to die? Emo didn't dare to go up and instead shifted carefully. When he was about 500 meters, the side of the cliff blocked him from moving sideways. If he was to go over it, he would have to go up. But going up would be going to the top. He didn't dare to go up, so he could only carry Ning Qingxue moving down. Emo just moved down 100 meters or so and found a crevice on the cliff face. Emo climbed in without hesitation. When he went in, he saw a plethora of herbs. His heart started to beat rapidly. Was this the place Emo Kong talked about? He looked around and didn't see any space abyssal rock. He was quite disappointed since most of the herbs here were quite ordinary. But soon he was excited again. He saw a large lotus sprouting from the cracked surface. 1,000-year lotus seed? Emo almost screamed. He didn't expect it to be here. He was actually so lucky. Emo quickly dug out the entire lotus and put it in his ring. He didn't check how many lotus seeds he got. After taking them, he looked around carefully and dug out more herbs. Although they weren't spirit herbs, they were quite old and also precious. What's that fruit? It looks like a pumpkin. I wonder what it tastes like. Ning Qingxue pointed to a meter-tall tree. Emo also saw it too. He felt it was a wild pumpkin and didn't care. Now that Ning Qingxue asked, he immediately said, "I'll pick it for you." Then, Emo landed in front of that tree. When he smelt the fruit, he almost lost his mind. Face-preserving fruit? Emo almost screamed. It wasn't just a regular spirit herb, but one that was countless levels higher than his silver heartgrass. This was impossible. How could the spirit-deprived earth have such a fruit tree? Although he thought it was impossible, it really was in front of his face. This fruit was useless for cultivation, but it had an outstanding effect. Once it was made into face-preserving pill, it would be worth a whole city for female cultivators. Emo counted and saw there were 12 on the tree. He immediately picked all these and put them into a jade box. These fruits were so precious that countless people fought after them. Suddenly, Emo thought of the red leaf pumpkin fruit they were talking about. If they found out he took some, they would investigate. Thinking about this, Emo dug out the entire tree and put it in his ring. Then, he reordered the place he dug until people couldn't tell he was here. Then, he carried Ning Qingxue and left here quickly from another crevice. After leaving the crevice, Emo didn't dare to stay. He continued moving until for a few more kilometers. He soon found himself on the hill, and there was still the fighting sound. Luckily, he had wind-controlling technique, or even a monkey wouldn't be able to crawl here the way he did. Did we get out? Ning Qingxue also recognized that this was the road she climbed the other day. Let's go quick. Emo carried Ning Qingxue down the mountain, and after walking for another hour or so, he finally stopped. He had walked so far that those two masters probably didn't know about them. Plus, Emo estimated that even if they knew there was a red leaf pumpkin there, they wouldn't be able to find it. It was too well hidden, so he didn't how news of it got out. One thing he was confused about was that why did it appear at a place like this? "If you're tired, just let me down," Ning Qingxue said worriedly. I'm not tired, plus I like carrying you, Emo said casually, but he actually didn't think much. When Ning Qingxue heard this, she thought to herself, so you're not as dumb as I thought you were. But she didn't feel unhappy at all, and instead had a sweet feeling. Here, eat it. Emo took out a face-preserving fruit and gave it to Ning Qingxue. Although it was the biggest waste to eat it like this because it had no effect unless it is concocted into a pill. Ning Qingxue bit it and said, "It's not bad. You should take a bite too." Then, she passed the fruit to Emo. Emo smiled. "I can't afford to eat this. This fruit is worth an entire city. It can't even be evaluated by the things in this world." "Huh. It's that precious. Then why did you let me eat it? Pack it up quick." Ning Qingxue passed the fruit back to Emo. She wasn't clueless like before. The things Emo did all meant that he wasn't an ordinary person. If he said it was worth an entire city, it meant it was really valuable. And the things Emo did were unexplainable with common sense, but he still didn't avoid her. This meant she had a strong position in Emo's heart. This made her very happy. Now that Emo gave such a precious fruit to her, she felt a little embarrassed. "Don't worry, I still have some. Even if it was the last and you want to eat it, I will still give it to you. Because if you like it, I will give it to you." Emo made it sound completely natural. Ning Qingxue phased for half a beat and surged with happiness in her heart. Her decision was right. Emo was worth what she did. Emo didn't hear Ning Qingxue eat nor talk for a while and subconsciously looked back. He then saw Ning Qingxue's eyes were red and swollen. "Qingxue, what happened to you? What's wrong?" Ning Qingxue licked the fruit in her hand and wiped her eyes. "I like it. I do like it." "What?" Emo didn't understand Ning Qingxue's words. "Emo, thank you. I gave you a water drop. You gave me the ocean. Thank you. Qingxue will always be yours." Ning Qingxue's voice grew so low until it couldn't be heard. Emo felt his nose. He didn't think Ning Qingxue would be touched so easily. She was really an emotional girl. If Emo didn't feel it himself, he would never believe she was so emotional. He was also touched by her words. To him, he just did what he should be doing, but Ning Qingxue reacted so much. They both seemed to feel embarrassed and didn't talk for a long time. Just when Emo was prepared to ask Ning Qingxue where the sky ditch was, Ning Qingxue suddenly asked, "What's the use of this fruit? Why is it worth so much?" Emo smiled and said, "I'll tell you after you eat it." "No, I want you to tell me first. Then I'll eat it." Ning Qingxue behaved in a spoiled manner in front of Emo for the first time, yet it came out so natural. Emo helplessly said, "Okay. In that case, I'll tell you. It's called face-preserving fruit. Can be made into a pill called face-preserving pill. Anyone who eats it can have their skin, appearance, and even the organs remain the same forever at the moment they ate the pill. They can't live forever, but mortals can extend their life by 10 years. Although Emo said it casually, Ning Qingxue was shocked. There was actually such a pill in the world. If someone else said it, she would think it was bullshit, but Emo said this and that meant it was real. In that case, this fruit was worth countless times more than what Emo said it to be. After half a beat, Ning Qingxue reacted and carefully passed the fruit shakily back to Emo. "Sorry. I bit it. You didn't tell me it was that precious. If we made it into a pill, then we could buy multiple large companies. Pack it away quickly." Emo smiled and pushed it back. "If you like it, then eat it. I still have 11 here. If you still want more, I still got more. Doesn't matter if you eat it all, it's food anyways." From young to maturity, her parents spoiled her a lot, but that was based on her behavior and they were her parents. If she said to sell the company and everything they owned just to buy a fruit, her parents would definitely stop her. But Emo didn't mind at all. It didn't matter if she ate it all. Ning Qingxue's hand with the fruit stopped. She was clear how much money Emo had in the past, and it could be said that Emo owned nothing. She didn't think she was this important in his heart, and this made her unable to hold back her tears. She softly caressed Emo's hair and said with a stutter, "Why are you spoiling me like this? You will turn me bad." Emo sunk into silence for a while before murmuring, "From the moment you ran into Xianxia, went down the cliff and risked your life to save me, I've decided to spoil you for your entire life. I will only spoil you more in the future. Pausing for a moment, Emo continued. If I can find Luoying and you're still willing to be with us, I will spoil you more. If I can't find Luoying this life, I will stay with you my entire life. I'm willing. Ning Qingshua's voice was still a little stuttered. She paused before saying, but will Luoying's sister accept me? She didn't finish, but her concern was real. This was a one-husband, one-wife society. She loved Emo and knew he wasn't a normal person. Even though Emo had a wife called Luoying, as long as Emo was willing to accept her, she had made up her mind to stay with Emo even if her family was against it. She was just scared that Luoying wouldn't accept her. When Emo said her past wife was Luoying, Ning Qingxue had a concern. She was afraid before that Emo would leave without notice when he found Luoying. But now, she was worried Luoying wouldn't accept her, and she had a stranger thought. She could only accept Luoying and Emo together. If it was another girl like Qi Wanqing, she wouldn't be able to accept it. Would Luoying think the same way as her? If her parents didn't accept it, she could leave with Emo, but if Luoying wouldn't accept it, she didn't know what to do. Hearing Ning Qingshua's words, Emo had the look of deep thought in his eyes. After a while, he seemed to be talking to himself. Master Will. He suddenly stopped and quickly darted out tens of meters and stared coldly at a bush. Come out. Ning Qingxue was still immersed in Emo's words and didn't notice what was happening at all. There was a rustling sound and a youth with tattered clothes crawled out from the bush. He looked at Emo and Ning Qingxue in shock and confusion. Savage? Ning Qingxue called out. Emo smiled. He's not a savage. His clothes were torn apart not long ago and they're camo. Perhaps he is the rescue team you were talking about. Who are you guys? How do you know I'm a rescue team member? The youth noticed both Emo and Ning Qingxue were normal people. Ning Qingxue also understood the situation now and said, You really are from the rescue team? You came in to save Zhang Chong. You know of Zhang Chong? Who are you guys? How do you dare to walk in here? The man was more curious. Emo saw he seemed to be very weak, so he threw out a packet of biscuits. Eat something and tell us what happened. At this moment, the man finally calmed down. He ripped open the biscuits Emo gave him. He ate very fast and devoured the biscuits in no time. Emo then passed him a bottle of water. After finishing, the youth said with fright, A few days ago, my team and I received orders to rescue a lost tourist here. We came in as a team of 8. When we came in, there were 2 tourist groups leading the way. We even brought guns. We thought we wouldn't be scared even if we met savages. But when we walked near the sky ditch, talking about this, the youth had obvious terror in his eyes. He looked at Emo before continuing. We just saw there was a shoe there. The people immediately said it belonged to Zhang Chong. Another tourist went to pick up the shoe, but when he did, there was a sharp scream from inside the ditch. He stopped and shivered. Emo took out a simple jade necklace artifact and gave it to him. Wear this and then talk. Which rescue team were you from? Are you the only one left? The man put on the necklace without hesitation and said, Thank you for your magic artifact. I will return it when we leave. It seemed he knew it was a magic artifact. Emo waved his hand. No need, you can keep it, I have a lot of these simple artifacts. Continue talking. The man immediately continued. I'm Wang Kailan. Our rescue team belongs to the Shinongjia area. That day, the scariest thing wasn't the sky ditch but the sound from it. The tourist who picked up the shoe froze for a moment and turned towards the sky ditch. Then, he jumped in. Ha! Ning Qingxue remembered she also saw a shoe that day. If it wasn't for the evil repellent charm, would she jump down too? Thinking about this, she had a fit of fright. She subconsciously hugged Yemo's shoulders. Smelling Yemo's familiar smell, she calmed down. Wang Kailan continued. When we saw the man jump down, we were worried and one of my squad mates started to shine at the ditch with the light. As soon as the light shone in, he also fell. We don't know what happened. At this moment, we knew things weren't good. There must be something in the sky ditch and we all started to run. Before I left, I also saw two of my squad members run towards the ditch and jump in. Emo stayed silent for a while before asking, "In that case, why are you fine?" Wang Kailan said with fright. "It was because I wore a magical artifact that was blessed. I don't know if it was due to that I was able to escape. This is too metaphysical. I didn't dare to run out the way I came from. I wanted to find a way out, but I wasn't able to for a few days. I also didn't see more rescue team come in. You are the first people I met in a few days." Ning Qingxue experienced it firsthand and knew Wang Kailan wasn't lying. Thinking about this, she said worriedly to Emo, "How about we take another route too?" Emo smiled. "Take another route? When you came in, didn't that thing scare you too?" I also told that thing that if it dared to come again, I will make you turn it into ashes. Perhaps it was scared, so it let me run away," Ning Qingxue said with fright. "You also come from the sky ditch?" Wang Kailan asked. "Yeah, the Zhangchang you are looking for came from my tourist group. He was the one who stepped on the ground when the ditch appeared," Ning Qingxue replied, but she immediately remembered that this was related to her. If Zhangchang didn't try to show off in front of her, perhaps that sky ditch wouldn't appear. Emo turned and said, "I'll go there now and turn it into dust. Are you scared?" Ning Qingxue shook her head. "As long as I'm with you, I'm not scared at all. If she had to walk that path again, she would rather die." However, it was different when she was with Emo, and she felt very sweet. Emo was going to destroy that thing because she was frightened. Emo looked at Wang Kailan and said, "If you're not scared, then come with us. If you are, then stay here." Wang Kailan saw that Emo seemed to be walking around very easy here with Ning Qingxue on his back. Most importantly, Emo gave him a magical artifact. From this, it could be seen that Emo was no ordinary person. If he stayed here by himself, it would be suffering. Plus, even a girl like Ning Qingxue wasn't afraid, so why would a man like him be? Thinking about this, Wang Kailan replied, "I'm not afraid. If you dare to go back, I dare to go with you." Emo looked at Wang Kailan with praise. "Not bad, you have some guts. In that case, let's go." They returned the way they came from. Emo didn't travel at full power but was still much faster than Ning Qingxue. Wang Kailan could also barely follow. The way that Ning Qingxue took a whole night and a few hours to travel was done by Emo and Wang Kailan in a few hours. At 3 p.m. they were near the sky ditch. People had already come. Emo immediately noticed that tens of meters from the sky ditch were barricaded. It seemed something happened later and people weren't allowed to enter here. Wang Kailan looked at the pitch-black sky ditch and still felt terror. Ning Qingxue only dared to secretly look at the sky ditch from Emo's shoulders. I don't seem to have that feeling anymore." Wang Kailan immediately felt that he didn't have that sense of terror today. Emo knew that even if it was some sort of evil spirit, it wouldn't dare to come due to his yang qi. Plus, those things may be very dangerous to normal people, but it was nothing for him. His spirit sense could detect any hidden thing as long as the thing wasn't in a higher state than him. It was just as though his invisibility could trick many people, but in the cultivation realm, this low-level invisibility was completely useless. "We can leave from here, Qingxue. I'll send you out first. I'll go in there and have a look," Emo said. Before Ning Qingxue could reply, Wang Kailan was worried. "Why would Emo dare to go in and look?" Ning Qingxue bit her lips and said stubbornly, "No, I'm staying with you." The reason Emo wanted to go in the sky ditch and look was to destroy the thing that scared Ning Qingxue. But he was scared Ning Qingxue would be frightened by the scene in the sky ditch. Now that Ning Qingxue wanted to go with him, he immediately canceled the plan and said, "In that case, let's leave." Wang Kailan let out a deep sigh of relief after hearing Emo decided not to go. He was really afraid Emo would go down there, but at the same time he admired Emo's courage. Emo also had his own plans. He wasn't afraid of the dangers there. To him, this danger was nothing compared to Earth-level masters. He was afraid those two Earth-level masters would chase here. Although the possibility was small, it could still happen. After the three left the bush, there were more barricades outside. People were starting to come, and Emo said to Wang Kailan, "I won't leave with you. People outside are coming. It's best you don't say a word about seeing me. Goodbye. Wang Kailan looked at Yi Mo's disappearing figure in shock. He still didn't know what Yi Mo was called. He only knew that he was strong, quite bold, and gave him an artifact of unknown level. He saved his life, but since he asked him not to talk about it, Wang Kailan wouldn't. Just when he wanted to flip the fence, he saw people coming. There were more than 10 people. He felt relieved because he was finally out of danger. That horrifying forest petrified him quite a bit. But at this moment, he heard that sharp howl again. The bleakness that chilled the bone came again. It was the same sound he heard last time. That shrieking howl was much stronger than last time. He immediately had this sense of helpless fear. Not only was the sound much stronger, even that bleak feeling was way stronger than before. He immediately knew that bleak feeling didn't disappear. It was probably afraid of that young man who saved him, and now that Yi Mo was gone, he was finished. Just when Wang Kailan wanted to run, that bleakness closed up on him quick. Wang Kailan felt as though his soul was being pulled away, but he couldn't move at all. The people coming for him were still a few hundred meters away. A sense of hopelessness filled his heart. Suddenly, Wang Kailan felt that jade necklace at his chest emit a pale yellow light. Then, a more sharper shriek sounded not far from him. It seemed as though it was injured and disappeared instantly. And that feeling of his soul getting pulled away also went away too. At this moment, he saw more than 10 soldiers run to him with guns. Wang Kailan took a deep sigh of relief and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He took out the jade necklace Yemo gave him. He now knew that not only was this a magic artifact but also a very high-level one. This would be worth at least millions in the shops, but that young man gave it to him so easily. Too bad he didn't get to know him. This was the second time Yemo saved his life. At this moment, Yemo and Ning Qingxue had left Shenong Jia Mountain District and went into the nearest town. He put down Ning Qingxue and took her to the shop, buying her a t-shirt and long pants as well as a pair of shoes. Then the two left the town. Where are we going? Ning Qingxue could finally stay with Yemo now, and Yemo's attitude towards her had changed. There was only joy in her heart. No matter where Yemo wanted to go, she would follow. Yemo thought for a while before saying, I still have some things I need to do. After I'm done, I will go Ninghai. I've planted some silver leaf grass there. How about I send you back first and come find you after I'm done? Ning Qingxue smiled sweetly. I actually live at Ninghai. Are those precious things of yours called silver leaf grass? I know before I left, I asked Su Wei to help look after it. Don't worry. I'll go to Ninghai and look after your silver leaf grass and wait for you to come back. Ning Qingxue grabbed Yemo's hand like a wife. She was a little worried he wouldn't come back for a long time. Yemo thought of the bloodied silver heart grass last time and clutched Ning Qingshue's hands closely. Qingxue, you're really dumb. You actually used your own body to protect a small grass. What if you're hurt? If I didn't happen to come back last time, I really don't dare to think about the consequences. Even if I kill the entire Song family, so what? MHM. Ning Qingxue replied quietly. She felt sweet because of Yemo's concern. After a while, she said, I actually don't regret it. At that time, I only know you liked that grass a lot, but I hurt you again and again. I just wanted to help you keep something that was useful to you. Other than that grass, I didn't know what I could do for you. Sometimes, I really feel I'm useless. I won't allow you to do something so stupid again. I don't care about that grass. Okay? Yemo pitifully held Ning Qingshue's hands. A girl loved him wholeheartedly. I know you won't care. I could even eat that face-preserving fruit whenever I want. Sometimes don't spoil me too much. I'm afraid that feeling would suddenly disappear. Ning Qingshue's voice grew soft. The nicer Yemo was to her, the more she worried that she would suddenly lose it one day. She wanted herself to be useful to Yemo and not be his burden. Stupid. Don't think like this anymore. You know I won't suddenly disappear in front of you. Before was before, now is now. It's different. Okay? Yemo looked at the extremely vibrant and beautiful Ning Qingxue and felt more loving at heart. Seeing Ning Qingxue not talk, Yemo talked slowly. I will make the Song family disappear. Don't worry. No, I don't care about that. Everything is fine as long as you come back. Ning Hai. Su Jingwen had her eyebrows locked in a frown while sitting in the same room with her mother. She didn't expect her cousin would suddenly propose to her through her mother, and even wanted to settle things by October 1st. This made her very annoyed, not knowing how to deal with it. She was very grateful to her cousin Xiaoweijing because he also stayed with her and played with her. However, she only held brotherly feelings to him, not the love between lovers. This was why she rejected her cousin's invites a few times. It wasn't to say that she didn't notice this beforehand, but she felt that she wasn't prepared, at least not now. Su Jingwen's mother, Muan, originally thought Su Jingwen wouldn't reject because when Xia Weizhang came back, she was the happiest person. However, she didn't expect her daughter to frown and say she hadn't thought about it. It was obvious she wasn't shy but really didn't think about it. Although Muan really liked Xia Weizhang, it was her daughter's business, so she could only provide suggestions. If Su Jingwen really didn't want to, she wouldn't force her. Jingwen, this concerns your entire life. You're not young anymore, and I can only give you advice. Xia Weizhang is good-looking and a doctor from America. Main thing is, he's still the same all these years he's been at America. I won't say any more. Just think about it yourself. This is you young people's business. Sigh. Muan seemed to have thought of her own unfortunate marriage. Although Su Jingwen was so old, she and her father was no better than strangers. Seeing her mother walk out, Su Jingwen also sighed as she rubbed her forehead. She didn't know how to reject her cousin. Although her mother said her cousin hadn't changed, she felt her cousin was too possessive. Perhaps in his heart, he felt she belonged to him, and this made Su Jingwen reject the notion subconsciously. However, her cousin was so much better than that Wang Peng. Even if he was to have such feeling, he had to wait at least until she was his lover. But now, she really only had brotherly feelings towards him. Su Jingwen remembered last time when her cousin tried to force her to accept the bracelet. That made her uncomfortable, and she subconsciously looked at her bracelet with only 2 beads and thought about Ning Qingxue. She said she was going to a dangerous place last time, and she wondered if she had come back. Su Jingwen called Ning Qingxue, but the line was dead. Did something happen to her? Su Jingwen thought. She could no longer resist and was going to call Li Mumei and ask. At this moment, her phone rang. Su Jingwen picked up and heard the voice. She immediately screamed in surprise. Qingxue, you're back? Where are you? Okay. I'll come over immediately. Beijing Song family. Song Qiming, the leader, had a serious face as he sat on the leader chair in the meeting room. Even the old man of the family, Song Yuanyi, came to this meeting. However, even though Song Yuanyi was Song Qiming's father, he still sat on a chair lower than Song Qiming. This meant that Song Qiming was completely responsible for this family meeting. But, other than the Song family, there were 2 people who weren't from the Song family at this meeting. One was a very handsome man in his 30s with white skin and looked scholarly. Another was an old man in his 60s with a red face yet a shining black hair. His hair seemed to be tied up while his eyelids seemed sunken. This hair was very strange in modern society. Our Song family appears to be glamorous, but we're actually shaking under the weather, Song Qiming said and scanned all the Song family members before continuing. EMO, I believe everyone knows, slaps our face again and even killed 3 of our direct lineage members. However, we didn't even dare to seek revenge. If this continues, we would crumble ourselves. Song Qiming's face got more serious. Qiming said the danger, now everyone think of a plan. Our Song family had underwent so much troubles. Can we not even overcome this little problem? The one talking was Song Yuanyi. Song Qiming nodded. Other than our family members today, there are also O Feng from the O family and Li Mingqiang predecessor. O family was almost annihilated entirely by Yemo due to a small thing. The 2 tigers of the O family were killed by him as well. Li Mingqiang predecessor's disciple Hu Qiu was also killed by Yemo. Could be said Yemo loves killing and is full of blood on his hands. Now, our Song family is in conflict with him, and I believe the next to fall will be our Song family. If we can't prevent this, we're not far from death. Song Qiming finished and Ofeng's face was pale as he clenched his fists. He didn't say anything, but from how his body was shaking, it could be seen how angry he was. The old man suddenly opened his eyes and sneered. The young people now are getting cockier. Just because he has some power, he shows off everywhere. Wuxia is my disciple. If I don't kill this bastard and get revenge for my disciple, then what have I been studying martial arts for? Predecessor Li, don't worry, we also want to kill Emo as soon as possible. But this person is quite strong. If we're going to attack, we need to succeed with one strike. We must not let him have a chance to breathe. Plus, Mr. Wuxia also died due to our Song family. We won't stand by in this issue. A man sitting on the left from the Song family bowed and said, originally, the Song family was asking for Li Mingqiang's help, but after he said that, it became the Song family helping Li Mingqiang. Li Mingqiang was old and astute. How could he not tell? He glared coldly at the man but didn't say anything. Song Qiming reproached, however. Song Hu, shut up. Stop using your little tactics. Predecessor Li Mingqiang came to help our Song family this time. Song Hu put in the effort but didn't get any good result. His face burst red as he sat aside not saying anything. Song Hai stood up and said, Leader Predecessor Li, this Emo is indeed no ordinary person. Other than Predecessor Li, no one from our Song family is a match for him. Plus, we can't use proper means against him because he actually became the head instructor of Flying Snow. However, there is someone who can take him on. If leader wants to see him, I can bring him here immediately. Who? Invite him in quickly. Song Qiming was troubled for not having a way to deal with Emo. But now that someone said they had a way, how could he not be desperate? Although he knew Li Mingqiang was strong, he wasn't sure if Li Mingqiang was enough for Emo. After all, even that tiger from the O family was killed by Emo. Emo was so strong that he was starting to get scary. Plus, he couldn't use the country's power against Emo. Even if he could, was Emo someone who could be fought with numbers? Just when everyone was guessing, Song Hai brought in a skinny middle-aged man. He was in his 40s, triangle eyes, long eyebrows. He walked in the meeting room of a top family in China but was very much at ease. Leader, this is Dongfang Shi. He found us not long ago and wishes to help us against Emo. Song Hai introduced Dongfang Shi briefly and retreated. Song Qiming stood up. Dongfang Shi? Were you the head advisor of Nanqing? The person who lead Nanqing to establish a base at Sina? Dongfang Shi smiled like an ancient man as he saluted with his fists. Indeed, it's me. I didn't expect my humble name to be in the ears of the Song family leader. It's my honor. Please sit, please sit. Song Qiming knew about Dongfang 11. When Nanqing was still struggling to start up and when even Chen Long too was running around for his life, Dongfang Shi appeared. He settled the score all by himself. Countless plans came from his head and eventually lead to the formation of the largest mafia in Asia, Nanqing. Could be said that Nanqing was a mafia that even a country couldn't do anything about. This was all due to Dongfang Shi. Song Qiming heard that Dongfang Shi frequently sigh. I regret not being able to be born in the Three Kingdoms and settle the score with Zhuge Liang and Sima Yi. From this, it could be seen what great goals he harbored. However, under the new political system, he was unable to put his talent to use. He wasn't from a big family, so he couldn't go in the political field. Thus, he could only help Qian Long Tu to become a small emperor, but this dream was shattered by Emo. It could be said that the person Dongfang Shi hated the most now was Emo. Dongfang Shi sat down with ease and said, Is the Song family leader troubled because of Emo? Song Qiming had heard so much about Dongfang Shi's big name. Now that he asked, he said straight up, Indeed, the Song family is quite troubled now. We can't do anything about Emo. Please help us, Dongfang brother. Dongfang Shi smiled. Since I came to help the Song family. Plus, I already have great enmity with him. Even if I don't, I can't bear to see someone so cocky. But before this, I want to know what trump cards the Song family has. Song Qiming hesitated for a while and didn't talk. Dongfang Shi saw this and laughed. Then he stood up and said, In that case, just pretend I never came. Hold up, brother Dongfang, please sit. There's nothing really I can't talk about. Although we can't use the country's power, but we can pull out some army from the south, north, and west side. However, we can't only use the excuse of training them. The time can't be too long. No more than 8 hours. Then, Song Qiming looked at Feng and Li Mingqiang and said, "We have 4 yellow-level masters. Predecessor Li is black-level intermediate stage master." Dongfang she sat down and took another sip of the tea. Song Qishan saw that Dongfang she didn't talk for a long while and was a bit unhappy and asked, "What does Mr. Dongfang think about this?" Dongfang she put down the cup and slowly said, "Our country has an ancient saying, know yourself. Know the enemy and you can fight 100 battles without losing. I believe the Song family leader knows where Yemo is at now and what he's doing." Song Qiming nodded and said, "Indeed, he took a mission to find something." Dongfang she nodded and said, "Since Song family leader is so genuine, I won't take corners. Yemo probably went out to find some data. Of course, he wouldn't be able to find it." Song Qiming suddenly looked at Dongfang Shi and coldly said, "How does Mr. Dongfang know about this?" This concerned with the country's secrets. His father only managed to find trace news of it due to his connections all over Beijing. He didn't expect Dongfang Shi to know as well. Dongfang Shi didn't seem to see Song Qiming's scary glare and looked at the other members of the Song family but didn't say anything. Song Qiming immediately understood and said, "Song Hai and Qishan stay. Feng and predecessor Li Mingqiang please stay. The rest of the people may leave." Soon only these people remained. "Now can you talk, Mr. Dongfang?" Song Qiming said again. Dongfang she looked at Feng and sighed. Although he didn't know why Song Qiming kept Feng, he knew he couldn't tell him to go. "I came this time to make a deal with the Song family. I will help the Song family kill Yemo, but the Song family needs to promise me 2 things. Dongfang she said at a moderate pace. Song Qiming obviously saw Dongfang. She looked at Feng but he said, "Oh, please be clear, Mr. Dongfang. If we can kill Yemo, it's fine even if the Song family makes some sacrifices." "Okay. Since you are so straightforward, I'll just say it." Dongfang Shi's voice sounded as though he has made up his mind. "I'm actually a member of North Sand now. I believe Brother Song has heard of it." Dongfang Shi paused here, but Song Qishan suddenly stood up. "What? You're from North Sand?" Song Qiming's face sunk. He felt Song Qiming couldn't control himself and unhappily said, "Qishan, don't interrupt Mr. Dongfang. Sit down." But he was quite disappointed. He originally wanted to pull Dongfang Shi into the Song family, but now it seemed it wasn't possible. Dongfang Shi didn't seem to see Song Qisheng's shock and continued slowly, "I know the country is very against the North Sand now, but that doesn't affect our deal. I can promise with the help of North Sand, Yemo will have nowhere to escape and eventually be sent to the Song family or die without a complete body." Song Qiming didn't show any emotions and said, "Mr. Dongfang, let's talk about your 2 conditions. First, Yemo captured a few of our North Sand members. Please help get them out. Second, after this is done, please return the data Yemo brought back." Dongfang she said these and took the teacup while waiting for Song Qiming's reply without any nervousness. Song Qiming's face sunk and changed for a long time before saying, "The first, I could perhaps get 1 person out. As for the second, that's impossible. That data has been declared top national secret. I can't get it out. Plus, even if it's in my hand, it would be betraying the country if I gave it to North Sand." After Song Qiming finished, Dongfang Shi's face didn't show any disappointment or unhappiness. He just smiled and said, "Okay, if you can save that woman and draw out the location of the data and defense mechanisms, that's also possible." Dongfang Shi never expected to get the data from Song Qiming. He also knew that was impossible, but Song Qiming could still draw out where it is. If he couldn't even do that, he has no right to cooperate with him, Dongfang Shi. Agreed. Song Qiming turned around and looked one eye at the old man. Dongfang Shi didn't feel strange at all for Song Qiming agreeing to his demands. He expected this. Everyone at the scene looked at him and then Dongfang Shi slowly said, "Yemo is not just a fighter. He has some intelligence, but his greatest weakness is arrogance. If I didn't take him so lightly last time, he would be dead already. Mr. Dongfang, please enlighten us. Song Qiming didn't doubt Dongfangxi's words at all. Which famous person didn't know about Dongfangxi's big name in China? Dongfangxi nodded and said, I've researched this Emo. Although he's from the Yi family, he seems to have big problems with them. However, he's quite close with his brother and sister. Do you mean for us to kidnap his sister and brother and use it to threaten him? Song Qishan frowned and said. Dongfangxi sneered. If it's just that, then there's no need for me. He paused before continuing. Although predecessor Li is strong, but I believe Yemo is on par with him and he is not someone who can be stopped with numbers. Can you stop predecessor Li with numbers? Although Dongfangxi said that, everyone knew he was taking care of Li Mingxiang's face. Although Li Mingqing was strong, but faced with people and firearms, he wouldn't be able to escape. Dongfangxi was implying that Yemo was much stronger than Li Mingqiang. Although Li Mingqiang also realized this, he just had a bleak face and didn't talk. Dongfangxi couldn't be bothered with Li Mingqiang's feelings and said, there are 3 campus queens of Hua Uni. The first is Nie Shuangshuang. She is living in her relative's house, and this relative could be counted as from the Song family. Dongfangxi looked at Song Qiming and Song Qiming looked at Song Hai. Song Hai quickly said, Nie Shuangshuang is living at Song Fei's house. She is a distant relative of Song Fei. Song Qiming frowned. He had only heard of the name but couldn't think of who the person was now. He didn't understand why Dongfangxi was talking about this, so he asked, so what? Dongfangxi smiled. Although Yemo was decisive in killing, he has a fatal weakness, and that is he cares about relationships too much. And he likes to involve himself with annoyances that comes in his eyes. If he saw such a pretty girl like Nie Shuangshuang in danger, would he go save her? Once he saved her, it shouldn't be hard to seduce Yemo with Nie Shuangshuang's beauty. As long as Yemo falls in love with Nie Shuangshuang and even go in bed, then the later plans will fall into place. Yemo's sister Yiling is also a campus queen of the Hua Uni. I believe she looks very good too. Song Qiming immediately thought of something and his expression became interested. He looked at Song Hai and said, Song Hai, give some water for Mr. Dongfang. Mr. Dongfang, please continue. Dongfang, she said, according to what I know, a month later, there will be an auction at a Dao Square in Wuliang Mountain. Many hidden sect masters will be going there. Those without a plate will be killed immediately when they go in. I happen to know the entrance to this auction. So what? Even Song Qiming couldn't resist the desperation and asked, tell Nie Shuangshuang to bring Yemo to Wuliang Mountain and call Yiling. Tell her that her brother is at Wuliang Mountain and then bring Yiling to the auction place. That way Yemo would be dead for sure. Dongfangxi's mouth had a cruel smile. Everyone looked at Dongfangxi wanting him to say how Yemo would be dead for sure. Dongfangxi didn't keep it from them and continued. The entrance has 2 masters of the hidden sects guarding it. One of them is at the peak of black level, and one is said to be halfway to earth level. The main thing is, these 2 are extremely lustful. Could be said that they are sex demons. Once these 2 see Nie Shuangshuang and Yiling, they would make a move for sure. Mr. Dongfang means for these 2 to rob the 2 girls and make them fight with Yemo. Song Qiming asked. Dongfang, she shook his head. Not quite right, it's against the rules for Yemo to just go into that passageway, but the hidden sect people can't just rob girls too. You can make Nie Shuangshuang seduce one of them. Then, the other wouldn't be able to resist and make a move on Yiling. Someone as prideful as Yemo would be extremely infuriated when he's cheated on by the woman he loves and has his sister harassed. When he is extremely angry, his battle power would decrease for sure. The main thing is, both of his opponents won't be easy. Why not choose Ning Qingxue? Song Qishan asked subconsciously. Dongfang, she shook his head. I still have big uses for her. I will tell you this later. After Yemo is captured by the 2 hidden sect masters, he would be dead for sure. Even if he barely makes it out alive, he would be heavily injured. At the exit, we just need predecessor Li and a few yellow-level masters. Then, we will have another 2 yellow-level peak stage masters to stop him. Yemo would have no way to escape, but you will also need to have some men nearby to prevent him from running into the forest. Seeing everyone look at him, Dongfang she confidently said, "With my previous setup, we won't even need to worry about Emo running into the forest." Everyone fell into silence. After a long while, Song Qiming said, "But do you know where Emo is now?" Dongfang she smiled. Song family leader underestimates North Sand too much. As long as Emo doesn't intentionally hide himself, we can know where he is very soon. I believe Emo would definitely not intentionally hide himself now. Even if what you said comes true, Nie Shuangshuang is just a normal student. Even if she's pretty, so what? You're asking a student that hasn't yet gone into society to trick Emo. Before she even talked, perhaps Emo would notice. This time it was Song Qishan talking. Even Song Yuanyi nodded afterwards. Indeed, I know Nie Shuangshuang, and she's rather shy. Although she's named the prettiest girl in the school, she isn't good at socializing. Plus, a girl's first time is rather serious for them. I believe it's too. Although Song Hai didn't finish, everyone could tell he doubted if Nie Shuangshuang could accomplish the task. However, Dongfang she interrupted. It seems you don't really understand Nie Shuangshuang. There are a lot of beautiful women, but the reason I chose her is because she and Yiling are both at Qing University. The other main reason is she isn't the girl from the rural she looks like. We did some investigations, and if we're correct, she belongs to the semi-hidden sections. She comes from 4 states and 9 moons temple. And this girl has an evil cultivation method. She loves sucking the yang essence of men. She has caused quite a lot of harm to men, but no one has found out yet. She's from the semi-hidden sects? She cultivates such an evil art. Even Song Yuanyi felt chilled. A girl who cultivated such an evil art was hiding in the high school. Song Hai obviously didn't expect this, but he immediately remembered Yemo's personality and said, "In that case, Nie Shuangshuang is no longer a virgin and should be very familiar with sex. In that case, Yemo probably won't like her." Dongfang she sneered. Even if he doesn't like it, he would know after they've been on the bed together. If Nie Shuangshuang could do that, then we've already succeeded. Plus, you probably don't know that Nie Shuangshuang had met up with Yemo once. If Yemo sees her in danger, it's very likely he would help her. Song Qiming's joy retracted. He thought a long while before saying, Yemo is not someone who can be tricked so easily. Since Nie Shuangshuang had seen Yemo before, it means that Yemo probably knows who she really is. However, Dongfang she calmly said, "That's because you don't know the rules of the temple. If the female students were to let others know of their identity, they must kill that person. Even if they can't, they must report back. The people from the sect would kill the person as soon as possible. If the student's identity was revealed but they hide it from the sect, do you know what the consequence is? Boiling alive in oil is a light punishment. And Yemo had seen her before, but he is in no danger. This means that Yemo only knows Nie Shuangshuang is a student at Hua University. He doesn't know where she comes from. Plus, if their identity were to be so easily discovered, they wouldn't have the right to be a semi-hidden sect. Even we paid a huge price to know her identity." The Song family people took a deep breath. Obviously, they didn't expect North Sand to have such a strong power. If Nie Shuangshuang really didn't report back, then wouldn't this plan be a joke? Song Hai said worriedly. Dongfang she sneered. First, there are the consequences of not reporting. Even serious lovers wouldn't do that. In addition, the temple is a branch of a Dao sect. 9 Moons Temple is a branch of Heavenly Emotion Severance sect, and their full name is 9 Moons Emotion Severance Temple. The disciples from there wouldn't have any emotion for anyone. Plus, Nie Shuangshuang is one of the outstanding students of the temple. How could she do that for Yemo, whom she had only seen once? But no matter how much Dongfang she calculated, he didn't calculate that Yemo had spirit sense. The moment he saw Nie Shuangshuang, he noticed something wasn't right. Dongfang she didn't understand the heart of a woman, so he didn't calculate that Nie Shuangshuang really didn't report back. Any mistake would be fatal, much less when Dongfang she made too. If he heard of a song called Don't Guess the Heart of a Girl, then perhaps he wouldn't make the second mistake. But no matter what, the first mistake was unavoidable. Song Qiming stood up and bowed. After hearing Mr. Dongfang's words, I finally understand that people with immense fame do have true capabilities. Leave Nie Shuangshuang to us Song family. We won't let a mistake happen. However, Dongfang, she shook his head. It's not easy to get her to work with us. Luckily, she loves Yang essence. I heard you Song family has a high-level magic artifact, Jade Woman Plate. Perhaps this could motivate her. When Song Yuanyi heard the words Jade Woman Plate, he suddenly stood up and stared at Dongfang she closely. However, Dongfang she seemed perfectly at ease. Song Yuanyi sighed and sat back down slowly. He was thinking that this North Sand was too scary. When Su Jingwen got to the rendezvous place, Ning Qingxue was already there. Qingxue, you seem to have changed a lot. You came back from that dangerous place. Su Jingwen could tell with one glance that not only was Ning Qingxue more healthy-looking, she no longer seemed depressed like last time. She could feel Ning Qingxue seemed more happy and energetic, and this made Su Jingwen very confused. Ning Qingxue's smile was as sweet as the blossoming of 100 flowers. Even Su Jingwen was attracted by this manner of Ning Qingxue. Although Su Jingwen had great confidence in her looks, she had to admit that sometimes Ning Qingxue was prettier than her. Where did you go? You seem so different from last time. You went somewhere dangerous, but it let you have this sort of change? This means I also need to go somewhere dangerous, Su Jingwen joked. Ning Qingxue helped Su Jingwen order a cup of coffee and nodded. Those few days were my happiest days. Although there was fear that I would die before those days of happiness. But when I thought about the happiness, I felt everything was worth it. I don't regret it. I called you out today to thank you. It could be said that you saved my life. Su Jingwen opened her eyes wide and looked at Ning Qingxue. When did she save her life? This is for you. I'm very grateful you gave me 3 beads last time. This bracelet is for you. Ning Qingxue took out that bracelet for Su Jingwen. It's so pretty. Su Jingwen could tell with one glance how precious the bracelet was. The 12 beads had a dim aura making people feel very comfortable. Where did you buy it? Although Su Jingwen knew that it wasn't as good as the beads she gave Ning Qingxue no matter how pretty this bracelet was. But she still very much liked this bracelet. Ning Qingxue shook her head. This wasn't bought. I asked Emo to make it for you because I used up the 3 beads you gave me last time. What? Su Jingwen's hand shook and the bracelet almost fell to the ground. No wonder this bracelet had a familiar serene feeling. It was made by Emo. Could be said that this bracelet was worth much more than the 3 beads she gave her. However, Su Jingwen had a mixed feeling. Although she knew it was worth more than the 3 beads she gave Ning Qingxue, she felt uncomfortable. When Ning Qingxue left, she told her to ask Emo to make a bracelet for herself. But when she really got it, she felt it was missing something. Although the 3 beads she gave Ning Qingxue was coarse, Emo made it for her birthday. But Su Jingwen thought this bracelet was also made for her by Emo. So why didn't she have the same joy as before? Perhaps it was because Ning Qingxue asked Emo to make it for her. Jingwen. Ning Qingxue saw Su Jingwen seem to be lost in thought and called. Oh! Su Jingwen came back to her sense and put the bracelet on the other hand, but she didn't take off the bracelet with 2 beads. Then, she smiled to Ning Qingxue and said, Thank you, Qingxue. Did you meet Emo? When Ning Qingxue heard Su Jingwen talk about Emo, her face was full of bliss. Yes, I went to find him this time. I was still with him yesterday, but he said he would come back for me soon. Su Jingwen hesitated for a moment before saying, If Emo comes back, can you bring him to my house for a while? My mum wants to thank the person who saved her life. So, Ning Qingxue said without hesitation, Sure. I'll ask him when he comes back, but I'm sure he will agree. How do you know? I feel Emo has his own judgment. Sometimes, he wouldn't be affected by the outside world. Su Jingwen was speaking the fact. Before Ning Qingxue went to Xianxia, she knew more about Emo than Ning Qingxue, and she knew that Ning Qingxue seemed to be together with Emo but really wasn't. Ning Qingxue's eyes turned to that of longing and said after a moment, Because I know, he wouldn't reject my words. After the fight with Bienpe, Yemo knew that his power compared to top masters was a far cry. Although he almost died, he still benefited some. Other than getting the face-preserving fruit and the 1,000-year snow lotus seeds, he had a better understanding of himself. His current power was at most the same as black-level peak stage ancient martial artists. Yemo had opened the snow lotus and checked. There were 9 seeds, but the rest were gone. Perhaps they were eaten by birds or fell off themselves. However, Yemo was already very satisfied with 9. He just needed a cauldron to concoct pills. After sending Ning Qingxue away, he bought a ticket to Guilin. After all, the things he was doing now was too dangerous. It would not be very convenient to take Ning Qingxue with him. Yemo took the train due to a few reasons. One was because there was no direct flight from where he lived to Guilin, and another was he hadn't had a good sleep for a while now, so he wanted to sleep on the train. Compared to most other passengers, Yemo's hands were empty. Other people all had big or small bags. So when Yemo was getting his ticket check, people subconsciously stayed away from him, but Yemo didn't care about that. Just when Yemo was getting his ticket checked, a voice called out to him, "Is it Yemo ahead? Wait up." Yemo stopped, thinking Ning Qingxue had gone back to Ninghai. Who else here knew him? But soon he saw who it was. It was a journalist with a backpack and a camera hanging off her neck. Yemo had seen her before. She was called Xiao Lei. He met her when he went to Flowing Snake. She was very bold and dared to go anywhere dangerous. Yemo didn't even need to think to know that she came here to interview about the Sky Ditch and Xianxia. "It's you, what's the matter?" Yemo turned around and asked. As a famous journalist, she had seen all sorts of people, but never has she been lost for words. She didn't know how to reply to Yemo's question. Yemo smiled and said, "If you don't have anything, I'm going on the train. Goodbye." "Huh. Wait. I have something." Xiao Lei reacted. Yemo was her hero, the hero who saved her life. She finally met him, so how could she let him go just like that? "What's the matter?" Yemo wasn't in too much of a rush. There were a few minutes before the train drove off. "Yes. Oh, by the way, I haven't been able to thank you last time for saving me. I finally met you now, so I want to invite you to food." Then, she realized she was really dumb. Yemo obviously had train tickets in his hands, but she asked him out for food. As expected, Yemo waved the ticket in his hand and said, "That's no big deal. Don't worry about it. You're probably going to do interviews at the Sky Ditch, aren't you? I have one suggestion. It's up to you if you listen or not. I advise you to not go in and stay away from the Sky Ditch." "Huh, you also know about the Sky Ditch? It should be fine now. A lot of journalists have been there, but now they don't let us in yet. However, they've sent cameras inside and said there's a cauldron-like thing. They got a lot of images and the specialists are analyzing it now. It said that it could be from the Qing dynasty, so this Sky Ditch may be a tomb from the Qing dynasty." Xiao Lei saw that Yemo was going, but she had no reason for him not to go, so she tried to find something to talk about. Yemo was originally just listening to her out of politeness. After all, it would be too rude to walk off when she was talking. However, Xiao Lei's words grabbed his attention. It was a cauldron, and he happened to be missing a cauldron. He just didn't know if it was for concocting pills. Thinking about this, Yemo asked, "Do you know how big the cauldron is?" Seeing that Yemo seemed to be interested in this, she quickly said, "We don't know yet now, but I have some pictures now." Then, she took off her bag and started going through it. Yemo subconsciously walked in front of Xiao Lei. His heart was pumping. If that cauldron in the Sky Ditch really was a concocting pill cauldron, then he wouldn't need to go look for one. Although Yemo had the material to craft a cauldron too, the cauldron he made with his current power would be far from enough to concoct pills such as face-preserving pill. Moreover, the materials to make the cauldron were relatively precious and hard to find. Xiao Lei squatted on the ground, and the stunning view at her collar was exposed. Although Yemo was standing next to her and could see easily with one glance, his mind wasn't focused on this. He was staring closely at her hands. To him, the cauldron was the most important thing. The moment Xiao Lei took out the pictures, Yemo took it immediately, although it wasn't very clear, but it could be seen that it was indeed a cauldron. Although it wasn't clear, he saw a ditch next to the cauldron. That was where the waste went. This was a concocting pill cauldron for sure. Yimo's heart thudded with joy. He didn't expect a cauldron to appear in front of his eyes just when he was thinking about one. At this moment, his impression of Xiao Lei rose drastically. Were these taken at the sky ditch? Yimo took the photo and asked. Yeah. Xiao Lei replied immediately. Then she said, I came to pick up a coworker but didn't expect to meet you here. I'm really lucky. If you're not busy, I want to invite you to food. I will pay for your ticket later. Since he saw the cauldron, Yimo wouldn't be leaving for sure. Now that Xiao Lei said that, he immediately nodded. Haha, the train has probably started now. You don't need to pay for me. See if your coworker has come. Xiao Lei turned around and saw a man and a woman carrying bags walking over. She quickly waved her hands and said, Bai Jie. Chudong here. Xiao Lei, is this your boyfriend? We took a photo for you guys just then. The girl walked up to the two and shook hands with Yimo. Hello, I'm Bai Jie, Xiao Lei's co-worker. Yimo then shook hands with Chudong before saying, I'm Yimo. I just met her not too long ago. Then, you must work harder. Xiao Lei is the beauty of our channel. The people wooing her could line up and fill an entire street. Although you're not bad, but you still need to work hard. Bai Jie already started joking with Yimo. Xiao Lei quickly punched Bai Jie. Bai Jie, stop it. Stop saying weird things. Let's go, food is on me today. Yimo saved my life. It's not what you think. Chudong remembered and quickly said, Yimo, is he the master who saved you last time at Flowing Snake? I've been longing to see you. Even Bai Jie looked at Yimo differently. Obviously, his value was many folds higher now. Xiao Lei pulled them away helplessly. She regretted telling everyone about it now. After he was forced to eat with the three, Yimo had to leave behind his number and take down theirs before he had a chance to go. Xiao Lei was very disappointed, however. She finally managed to ask Yimo out, but they just ate and it was with her coworkers. There was no development at all. No way, Xiao Lei, you really into him? Bai Jie saw the lost face Xiao Lei had after Yimo left and joked. Xiao Lei shook her head. She didn't really like him, but it was a feeling she couldn't describe. Compared to Yimo, the Wang Qianjun who left her behind was trash. However, she knew that no matter from which aspect, she was much worse than Ning Qingxue. And Ning Qingxue was his legal wife. If she didn't happen to meet him today, she wouldn't go look for him. Let's go, I'll tell you guys about the sky ditch. If we're successful, perhaps we can go in this afternoon. There's not only journalists from our channel, so the competition is very intense. I hope we can make the most fascinating report and beat the other channels, Xiao Lei said. When Yimo returned to the Shinongjia, it was surrounded by troops with real guns. Many machines were digging, and any obstacles were removed. By the looks of it, perhaps it would only take half a day before they neared the sky ditch. The journalists surrounded the outside tried to take photos. Yimo noticed that there were some masters here, but the highest one was only black-level elementary stage. He could avoid them with invisibility as long as he didn't use chi. It was only a few minutes and Yimo got by the machines and came to the sky ditch again. Although it was just tens of meters away from the outside open space, the sound seemed to be turned off as soon as he came here. Everything was dead silent. A bleak wind flew past Yimo's ear. Yimo immediately knew this wasn't wind but something real. His spirit sense scanned and there was a faint shadow in the sky ditch. At this moment, the digging sound from outside seemed louder. Yimo scanned his spirit sense in the sky ditch. There was an area of about 70 meters. There was a stand, but he couldn't see what was below the stand. Although Yimo didn't really believe ghosts and ghouls, he wouldn't believe the words of those bullshit specialists. Each time there was an unexplainable phenomenon, it would be due to magnetic fields or some other bullshit. There were too many unexplainable things in the world, and Yimo, who came from the cultivation realm, knew more unexplainable things there. In Yimo's view, this was due to there being less spirit chi in the world. Spirit chi could make everything grow and become intelligent. Without spirit chi, the things in the world would lose its special attributes. Although Yimo felt there was an evil spirit he couldn't see here, he didn't mind. His spirit sense could feel it. Plus, this evil spirit had a natural fear towards him. Emo jumped down the sky ditch and landed on the stand. He immediately saw a camera and threw a fireball without hesitation, burning the camera to ashes. He jumped from the stand and landed on the ground. As soon as he did, he saw numerous bodies. They died not long ago. This place was indeed strange. He scanned out his spirit sense. This place wasn't like what Xiao Lei said, an ancient tomb. It was a dried-up riverbed. There were stones and sand everywhere. There were also some ancient bones and rotten plants. Emo cared about the cauldron the most. He found the cauldron very soon at another stand. It was left there alone. Emo came to the stand, and just when he wanted to pick it up, he felt an animosity struck from beside. He immediately knew it was that evil spirit before. Even Emo didn't know what it really was. If it was a ghost, why did it have a shadow? If it was an animal, why could it only be seen by spirit sense? Emo's main purpose here was the cauldron, but now that he was attacked by the spirit, he was furious. Plus, this thing scared Xianxia before. Perhaps the numerous corpses here were related to it. Killing intent rose as he immediately surrounded the shadow with his chi and threw multiple fireballs at it. It seemed that the evil spirit could only scare people and disappear. When it met a real cultivator like Emo, it couldn't resist at all. There was a sharp shriek and it turned to dust. Emo was disappointed. It was that easy? He didn't even try and this thing was gone. No wonder a charm he made at stage 1 chi gathering could stop it. This thing could only stay in the sky ditch. If it left, even an ancient martial artist could kill it by sensing chi. But even though Emo killed it, he still didn't know what it was. At least, Emo knew there was no cultivators here. Emo didn't pay any more attention to it. He picked up that cauldron, but soon he was disappointed. This cauldron was just a model. In other words, it was just something carved out of stone, placed here like a sign. Emo shook his head and put it back down. He followed the riverbed and walked down another 100 meters. Then, a huge stone door a few meters wide appeared. Was this really a tomb? It was obviously a dried-up riverbed, though. He pushed the door, but there was no movement. This door wasn't something he could move with his current power. Emo pulled out that long sword from his ring and sliced 4 times towards the middle. The stone door was cut open like tofu. Emo scanned his spirit sense in, but the inside was filled with rotten air. There was no danger. Emo walked in and there were rows of rotten wooden shelves. There were lots of ceramic vases, wooden vases, and even jade vases. With the wind Emo brought in, the rotten shelves all crumbled. Emo brushed away the dust and started to look around carefully. The first to appear in his eyes was a middle-sized cauldron. Emo checked it and discovered that it was not a model but a real cauldron. It had a dragon head on each side, with an opening at the waist and a lid. It was a well-equipped cauldron. It was the exact same as the model. Emo rejoiced and picked it up. It was a good cauldron indeed, and it concocted quite a lot of pills. Even after so many years, he could still smell a faint herbal smell. This was a good thing, but Emo could tell that it didn't come from the cultivation realm. Even he didn't know what material it was made from, but it was definitely top material. The craftsmanship was also top-notch, but it didn't have formation markings on it. Obviously, it wasn't used in the cultivation realm, but Emo had the feeling this cauldron wasn't so simple. Emo gathered the situation and made a guess. A long time ago, this place might be a hidden sect that concocted pills. In front of the sect was a river, but something happened and the river dried up. This sect was also buried underground. Pity he only got a cauldron. Emo washed the cauldron clean, which showed an ancient model. Then Emo found the words Shin Nong at the bottom. Was this the cauldron used by the ancestor of Chinese's Shin Nong? If that's the case, then this cauldron was worth a fortune. Luckily, he came here first. With the cauldron, he could do many things. As long as he had enough herbs, he could concoct pills. This way, he would cultivate much faster. Emo looked around the herbs that turned to dust around him and felt heartache. It was such a pity. He looked around carefully, but there really was nothing here. Emo was satisfied he got a cauldron here and was prepared to leave. But at this moment, he turned around and saw that a stone person had appeared at the door. Emo frowned. Did he not see if before? Also, he didn't take care when he went in. He didn't seem to remember seeing this stone person. This stone person seemed to have appeared after he took the cauldron. Indeed, this was quite eerie. Even so, Yemo didn't care. He already destroyed an evil spirit just then, so he wouldn't care about a mere stone person. Yemo walked over and scanned with his spirit sense. This stone person didn't have anything peculiar, and below it seemed to be an incense pot. Yemo walked in front of it and carefully moved the stone person away. However, as soon as Yemo moved the stone person, he felt the ground shake. Not good. If Yemo still didn't know the stone person was a trap switch by now, he would be too dumb. As soon as the thought appeared, Yemo heard a large rumble from outside. Yemo scanned his spirit sense. The sky ditch collapsed again, and it was still reaching in. Yemo immediately understood that if he didn't get out in time, he would be buried alive. Even though he was stage 3 chi gathering, it would be very hard to climb out of the earth after being buried 1 to 200 meters underground. This place wasn't the desert. It was full of mud and rocks instead. However, Yemo didn't worry. Even if he was buried, it would just be hard getting out, but it didn't mean he couldn't. Waves of mud fell. He knew it wasn't plausible to leave through the stone door since it was probably filled up already. Yemo turned and ran inside. There were rotten wooden shelves and herbs everywhere. This made him think about the place he saw in the desert. There were many purple heart vines, but they all turned to dust. Yemo originally wanted to run to the end and open up a way with the long sword, but then he realized that if this place was a place to concoct pills, there couldn't only be one exit. But just when he reached the end, large packs of mud fell before he could pull out the long sword. Yemo knew it was too late. Now wasn't the time to regret. He immediately formed a barrier with his spirit chi to avoid being smashed by rocks. The collapse came and left quick. Just when Yemo couldn't hold it anymore, the collapse had stopped. Yemo knew he was completely buried underground. Although Yemo was buried underground, he didn't feel worried at all. He was scared of being buried because it would be too dirty to be covered in mud. But now that he was buried, he could still go out. It was just a bit troublesome, but 100 meters underground wasn't enough to take his life. Yemo pulled out the long sword and started digging at the stone wall. He decided to dig forward. If there was no way out, he would start digging up because after 10 meters, there would be no place to place the rubbles. Yemo felt lucky. He only dug less than 10 meters and he eventually cut through. Fresh air came in and Yemo crawled out. It was in the middle of a cliff. He sighed. Although he was very dirty, he didn't have to get through 100 meters of dirt. Just when Yemo was prepared to leave, he heard voices from the top of the cliff. Yu Lian, I'll say it again. Even if you chase me to the ends of the earth, I didn't take anything and I didn't kill Bien Pa. The voice was a very pleasant female voice. Hearing this, Yemo wanted to extend his spirit sense out, but he immediately took it back. Yemo knew how strong Bien Pa was. Since this person was suspected of killing Bien Pa, it meant that she was at least on par with him, and the person who could reproach the woman about it obviously wasn't weak either. If he extended out his spirit sense now, it would suicide. Jing Shi Dao friend, let's not talk bullshit. You're not the only one who came to search for the red leaf pumpkin fruit, but it seems you're the only one alive. I saw you kill the Baldy Li gang. Are you going to deny that? Killing Bien Pa is forming enmity with Dian Song, and Bien Po's brother Bien Chao is expected to reach Earth level soon. Do you think he would let you go if words get out? Even your serenity would be in danger. The man called Yu Lian talked very slowly, not showing the slightest worry at all. Yemo had guessed who the woman was. She was the nun who fought with the Baldy at the top of the cliff before. He just didn't expect the Baldy to be killed by her. From Yemo's perspective, the Baldy's sword was stronger than the nun, so he wondered how the nun killed him. It seemed this nun wasn't simple, and she was a ruthless woman. If he fought her, he needed to be careful. However, Jing Shi said, believe it or not, although I killed Li Gang, I didn't kill Bien Pa and I didn't get the red leaf pumpkin fruit. If you still won't believe me, I'm not afraid of you either. Yu Lian sneered. I'm doing business with you genuinely, but you're like this. Jing Shi, you have two choice. One is take out 3 red leaf pumpkin fruit and sleep with me once. Second is that I go to Dian Song and say you killed Bien Pa. Don't forget that although serenity is not bad, compared to Diansong, it is nothing. Shameless. Xianxia immediately reproached with fury. Emo suddenly thought, serenity, wasn't that Luo Susu's sect? He didn't expect this Xianxia to be from serenity, from the same sect as Luo Susu. He wondered who she was to Luo Susu. If they fought later, should he save her? Ha ha. Lianyu laughed, but he stopped immediately. P11. Compared to your shamelessness, I'm so much more inferior than you. You caused your Shi Jie Xian's death for a man. I'm right, aren't I? After you harmed your Shi Jie, you captured that man and fucked other men in front of him to get revenge. Then, you killed all of them including the man you loved. Tell me, am I up to your standard in terms of shamelessness? You! The woman just said that and nothing else. Yu Lian wasn't in a hurry. He was just waiting for this Xianxia's reply. After a while, Xianxia said slowly, since you don't mind me, I'll agree, but I hope you will keep your promise. Then, Emo heard the rustling noise of clothes taken off. Wait! Yu Lian's voice stopped Xianxia from continuing to take off her clothes. Xianxia's voice grew soft. Since I'm already in your hands and I agreed to your demands, what else do you want? It's a bit strange. Things seem to be different from what I heard. Although I'm sure you killed the man you loved and you fucked other men was true too. How can you still be a virgin? Yu Lian's voice was full of vigilance. Before Xianxia replied, he sneered. I've lost interest in you, you just need to take out 3 red leaf pumpkin fruits and our deal is over. After that, you go your way, I go mine. I fucked countless women, and I can tell who is a virgin or not. Don't play tricks with me. Originally, Emo was thinking if he should help Xianxia later, but after hearing their conversation, Emo had completely lost that thought. It seemed both of them weren't good people. Why was Susu in such a chaotic sect? Bitch, you dare to sneak on me. Yu Lian's rageful voice sounded. Then Emo heard fighting noise. From the sound, Emo could tell Yu Lian used a sword and wasn't any bit inferior than Xianxia. Emo had to hand it to Xianxia. Although he didn't know how she killed the triangle-eyed baldy, she could still fight on par with Yu Lian after killing an Earth-level master. Could be seen how tenacious she was. He didn't dare to reach out his spirit sense, nor did he dare to climb up and watch, so he sat down. He would leave after the 2 was done. The clash of weapons were getting more frequent, then less frequent until it eventually stopped. Emo waited another hour before extending his spirit sense up. The woman was gone and only the body of Yu Lian remained. Emo climbed up the cliff. Yu Lian's throat was shattered by the horsetail whisk. Emo searched his body and found a small jade plate. It wrote, 37. Emo took the plate and burned Yu Lian to ashes. Just when he was prepared to leave, he noticed a bloodied bush on the way down. It seemed Xianxia left from here. This meant that she was quite heavily wounded. Thinking that Xianxia came from the same place as Luo Susu, Emo followed quietly despite worrying about her strength. Although there were less blood on the road, Emo could still find Xianxia's path with his spirit sense. 2 hours later, Emo saw a fainted nun on the ground beside a stream. She was unconscious. It seemed she was too heavily injured. If she didn't faint, he could keep following her. But now Emo was helpless. Emo didn't know if he should save her. If he did, this woman who harmed her Shi Jie was obviously not a good person. Plus, Emo didn't believe that Yu Lian would lie when there was only them 2. If he didn't save her, Emo still needed her to bring him into serenity. Just when Emo squatted, his spirit sense noticed Xianxia's eyelids move. He immediately took back his spirit sense. He knew she was about to wake up. Emo quickly walked up in front of her and said in surprise, why is there a nun here? Did she also encounter a wild beast like me? Is she dead? Then, Emo was going to help her up. But at this moment she opened her eyes and quickly said, thank you, I can move. Can you help me get some water? I'm very thirsty. You're okay. That's good. I'm lost and was chased by a wild beast. I don't have any bottles on me, Emo helplessly said. Don't worry. Just scoop some with your hand. Then Xianxia's face grew very pale after this. It was obvious she had lost a lot of blood. Emo scooped a few handfuls of water for her to drink. Then, she took out a bottle from her clothes and wanted to rub some medicine on her wounds, but her hand shook for a long time and wasn't able to do it. Do you want me to help? Although Emo really didn't want to help, he would be suspected by the nun if he didn't say that now. Emichim, thank you so much. Help me tip the powder onto my wounds. She just spoke a few sentences and was already coughing heavily. Obviously, she was very heavily injured and lost a lot of blood. Emo walked over and carried her on top of a big rock. Then he opened the bottle open. This she looked like she was 30 at most, but Emo felt she was much older than 30. But still, she felt very soft in his hands. Emo actually thought of Ning Qingshue's body was much more comfortable to carry than hers. There were quite a lot of wounds on her, but there were two that was the most serious. One was under her left breast, and another at her waist. Although Emo was helping Jingxi with the medicine, he didn't notice her chest. He had all his attention on Jingxi's movements. This woman was a ruthless woman, so he needed to be wary if she were to suddenly strike. When Emo opened up the clothes at her waist, he wasn't surprised by the nun's smooth white skin, but that she had a very sexy and attractive band that covered her belly and chest. There was actually this sort of nun. There were 2 lotus flowers embroidered on it with the words, "My heart is the same as your heart. Never betray the feelings." Emo was laughing to himself. It seemed this nun was quite an affectionate nun. But if this nun really killed the man she loved just as Yu Lian said, then she was too scary. Emo suddenly realized that he saw her band, and although it was just for a little while, he was worried that she noticed. Thinking about this, he carefully let out his spirit sense. He knew that this nun was heavily injured and didn't have the acute sense of when she was fighting. It would be hard for her to notice his spirit sense. Even so, Emo was still very careful. He observed a while and this nun didn't seem to notice. It was just that her face was a little pale and eyes were sunken. Emo was slightly relieved. The nun's wound was near the band. Regardless, Emo was prepared to rub the medicine there. The moment he lifted up the nun's band, he noticed a blink of killing intent flash across the nun's eyes. Emo sneered. She was a ruthless one indeed. He was treating her wounds, but she wanted to kill him. He needed to be more careful later. Emo's finger moved and a small grass from his ring fell into his hand. He lowered his head to block the nun's vision and took out the juice of the grass and added it into the nun's medicine before applying it to her wounds. Finally done. Emo gasped a sigh of relief and looked up. This number actually blushed a little and said in a quiet voice, "Thank you. If it wasn't for you, I will be dead for sure." Obviously, she was very shy when talking. It meant that she had her private areas seen and had the embarrassment of a woman. Emo had goosebumps all over his body. This nun was so much older than him, but she still acted young. Emo looked and shivered. Such a scary woman, her acts were so natural. If Emo didn't see the killing intent in her eyes before, perhaps he would even believe her. At this moment, he thought about Nie Shuangshuang. Both women had the natural talent in acting, but Nie Shuangshuang was far from this nun. Seeing Emo looking at her dazed, the nun thought this young man was shocked by her looks. More killing intent surged in her heart. He looked at her skin. Did he still want to live? And he had such lustful gazes. However, her face blushed more with embarrassment. She still needed him now. "I haven't asked for your name yet? You saved me life, she stuttered, as though she really didn't have a way to pay Emo back for saving her life. Emo waved his hand and took back his gaze. "It's my honor to save a beautiful woman like you. You don't need to pay me back. I'm called Dehu. I wonder what your name is." Emo thought of Rhu at Luozong and just came up with the name Dehu. Thank you, Dehu. I'm called Jingxier. I was wanting to collect some herbs here, but I met some bad people. I was stabbed by them. Luckily, I had some martial arts and I barely escaped here, she said shyly. Emo thought of her contemptuously. She wasn't too dumb, copying my excuse of being chased by wild beasts. However, his face immediately showed shock. "This means you know martial arts? I heard that there are many masters hidden in places. Sister Zier, Are you a master hidden from the normal world too? Emo thought, since you want to act young and naive, I will let you act that way. Whatever Xianxia said, he would act with it. As expected, Xianxia acted embarrassed again, making people feel as though she hadn't talked with a man for a long time. Each time she spoke, it was as though she couldn't control her embarrassment. She looked down and said, I'm no master. I've just learned a few moves from my master. My master is a real master. Haha, she wanted him to ask her to study martial arts. Emo rejoiced and nervously asked, Sister Zier, does your sect take male disciples? I've had a fervor towards martial arts since I was young. Hearing Emo's words, there was a look of realization in Xianxia's eyes, but she said, I can go ask for you, but if your talent isn't good enough, there's nothing I can do. Worst comes to worst, when I get better, I can teach you a few moves in secret. How about this, where do you live, I'll send you back. It's too dangerous here. Then Emo looked nervously at her. He was really nervous this time because if this nun agreed, he would know where Luo Susu is. Xianxia frowned and sneered. He took the bait. But soon, she looked up with embarrassment. Our temple is at Wuliang Mountain. It's just a bit far. I think it might be troublesome for you. It's actually at Wuliang Mountain. Emo was quite surprised. Although he knew there were hidden sects there, he didn't expect Serenity to be there too. This nun could really run. She came all the way from Wuliang Mountain to Xianxia. He was dazed for a moment and replied, It's not a trouble. I like going around everywhere. I was planning to go Wuliang Mountain anyways. Now that I met you, we can go together. Emo sneered. She talked so much just so he could send her back. The two were thinking of the same thing, and so they reached accordance very soon. They were both women and very pretty ones too. But when Emo carried Ning Qingxue, his heart was filled with ripples. As for when he carried this nun, he was full of uneasiness. His spirit sense was watching the nun's every move, fearing that she would kill him at any time. If it wasn't for Luo Susu, he would never carry such a bomb on him. He must say that Xianxia was countless times more familiar with Xianxia than him. Under her guidance, he only took 2 hours to walk out from there. Seeing that Emo only breathed heavy a little, Xianxia refreshed her opinion of this young man. His endurance was so good. He had been carrying her for a few hours and only seemed a little tired. She didn't know that Emo wasn't a little tired. In fact, he wasn't tired at all. What Xianxia more curious was that this who seemed lustful when he was treating her. But now, even though he had been carrying her for more than 2 hours, he didn't even try to take advantage of her at all. This made her feel quite strange. Emo didn't know he almost exposed himself due to this. He carefully asked, Sister, how do we get to Wuliang Mountain? Do we take train or plane? No need, I will drive here. Xianxia pointed to a parking lot outside the Xianxia. Emo didn't expect this nun drove herself out. He saw it was an Audi cross-country vehicle with a military plate. This nun really was something. The nun also didn't expect that Emo's car skills were so good. When Emo just started driving, she could tell Emo was a newbie and wasn't very familiar with driving. But after driving 200 kilometers, he was familiar with the car and increased the speed. Eventually, the car reached 256 kilometers per hour and was still rising. Emo wanted to get there as soon as possible in case this nun recovered on the way and fought him. However, Xianxia stared at Emo and thought, was this young man really a tourist? She was confident in her looks, and after being so intimate with him for so long, he actually didn't do anything or flirt with her. This wasn't the main thing. When he first started driving, his skills weren't good, but now he was getting better and faster. There were smart people, but she had never seen someone who could learn this fast. And there was something else. This young man was looking around while driving. Obviously, his attention wasn't on the speeding car. Was he faking it? But what good was this to him? Xianxia looked at Emo and felt more wary. Emo thought of Luo Susu. He didn't notice his actions had aroused Xianxia's suspicion. It was his first time driving, but he got used to it soon. He learnt this from Wendong. Seeing that Emo was still looking around while the car was getting faster and faster, Xianxia couldn't hold it. If they crashed, it would be hard for her to live even if she wasn't injured, much less when she was heavily injured. To who? Drive slower, you're driving too fast. I'm feeling a little dizzy, Xianxia said. Oh. Emo heard her words and had a fright. He woke up from his memories of Luo Susu. He had been using his spirit sense to check the road, but now he realized that was problematic. He was driving too fast, and that must have gotten Xianxia suspicious. He drove fast because he subconsciously wanted to go see Luo Susu faster. Just when Yemo's car slowed down, a Porsche chased up to him. It lined up with Yemo's car. The window opened and a youth in his 20s said to Yemo, "Bro, your driving skills are not bad. How about we have a race? I actually couldn't catch up to you before." Yemo also rolled down the window and looked at the youth. He smiled and didn't answer. At this moment, he revved up the engine and turned to the nun apologetically. "Sorry, Sister Zier. I've loved driving before and I often go into competitions. Due to some accident, the family didn't let me drive anymore. It's been 5 or 6 years since I last drove. Now when I drive, it was a little unfamiliar to me. I'll shake away this kid so he doesn't annoy us." Then he showed an innocent smile. Although Yemo didn't know if this would remove her suspicion, he still had to do it. Then, seeing how Yemo increased the speed again, Xianxia frowned. Was this kid really a racer who haven't driven for a long time? However, his car skills were really good. If he was a racer, that could be true. After all, he hasn't drove for 5 years, so it was natural if he was a bit rusty. Plus, looking at how competitive he was, he didn't seem like someone very smart. Yemo's speed flew up again. Soon, he left behind the Porsche and it was getting farther and farther until it couldn't been seen. He looked back at the Porsche before slowing down again. The Porsche stopped, and a youth in his 20s came out. He patted the car hood and took a deep breath while looking at the Audi that disappeared. He talked to himself. "This guy really is a maniac. I suspect he's a professional racer." Beijing Song family. Song Qiming and Dongfang Shi were talking when Song Hai suddenly ran in. "What is it?" Song Qiming understood Song Hai's personality. He was usually very calm, but he seemed very desperate today, meaning there was something important. "Leader, I just got news. Nie Shuangshuang left Beijing 2 hours ago. We don't know where she's going, and the leave she applied at school is 1 month." Song Hai looked at Dongfang Shi. This plan was thought up by Dongfang Shi, but now the main person had left. This meant that the plan was pretty much useless. Afterwards, not just Song Qiming, but even Dongfang Shi frowned. Nie Shuangshuang's leave was too coincidental. She didn't leave earlier nor later, but she had to leave when his plan was set. Song Qiming quickly reacted and worriedly looked at Dongfang Shi. "Mr. Dongfang, what do you think we should do now? Should we stop her?" Dongfang Shi thought for a while and said, "Nie Shuangshuang is gone. Trying to find her is like finding a needle in the desert. But I still have a few substitutes. Let me think." Song Hai and Song Qiming didn't dare to disturb Dongfang Shi. They just sat by the side and waited. After a while, Dongfang Shi slowly said, "In that case, I won't be polite. I heard Song family leader has an illegitimate daughter called Tang Beiwei, but now she's living quite impoverished. However, her looks shouldn't be worse than Nie Shuangshuang. Song family leader, I believe you know about this. If she could replace Nie Shuangshuang." "No!" Song Qiming's face immediately went pale. That was his illegitimate daughter 21 years ago. He only heard about them 2 years ago, but in order to protect the mother and the daughter as well as his position, he had never contacted them nor given them financial support. Song Qiming didn't know how Dongfang Shi knew about this. Originally, Song Qiming planned to bring the two to Beijing after his position stabilized. But he didn't expect Dongfang Shi to know about this. Although it was very normal for this to happen in big families, Song Qiming raped the girl 20 or so years ago and made the mother-daughter fend for themselves for 20 or so years. If his political enemies knew about this, it would be a lethal blow to him. Other than him, he didn't tell anyone. He did the investigations himself as well, but Dongfang Shi even knew about this. In that case, there's nothing I can say, but I need to remind you that if you don't attack, perhaps you won't have much time. I'm leaving, goodbye. Then Dongfang Shi stood up and was about to go out. "Mr. Dongfang, please hold up." Song Qiming's face was pale. Then he tiredly said, "Mr. Dongfang, I've already wronged them for 20 or so years. If I'm still going to use them now, what difference am I to an animal? Mr. Dongfang, can you change it to someone else? Dongfang, she wasn't really going to go. He sat down again and coldly said, there's less than 1 month until the auction. You should know why I chose those two. Nie Shuangshuang is a natural actor and very alluring. Meanwhile, Tang Beiwei got acting awards in high school. It could be seen she has talent in acting. If that's the case, I'll find someone in the acting academy for you? Song Qiming's eyes were hopeful. Dongfang, she shook his head. I've investigated the few major acting academies. There are no one who can match Nie Shuangshuang and Ning Qingxue in beauty. And those women are too pretentious, they're not the type Emo likes. That isn't the main point, the main thing is, Tang Beiwei would work for you with her life, but other girls would just think of it as an act. Song Qiming shook his head. If Tang Beiwei knew I was her father, she would hate me the most. How can she work for me with her life? Dongfang, she laughed and drank the tea before saying, what if it's because of her mother? Song Qiming's face changed drastically. What's wrong with Tang Jin? Dongfang, she sneered. Song Qiming was a cold-hearted person. But this sort of person suited his need perfectly. Song Qiming looks very worried. But in his heart, since when did he care about them? However, he slowly said, Tang Beiwei's mother is living in the hospital due to a heavy illness half a year ago. Now the family is piled with debt. Although Tang Beiwei is working 3 jobs, she still can't pay for the heavy medical fees. If the Song family tells Tang Beiwei that they could solve these problems for her as long as she agreed to help, I believe she will agree 100%. Dongfang, she would have never thought that after Nie Shuangshuang left and he found a substitute, his plan had no flaws anymore. Seeing Song Qiming being indecisive, Dongfang, she seemed very at ease. He wasn't worried at all that Song Qiming wouldn't agree. He would agree to his current wife and daughter, much less his illegitimate daughter. He understood Song Qiming very well. If there had to be a hole in the plan, it would be Yemo. He had never seen Yemo, so all of the info about Yemo was based on other people's research. Tandu was a place famous for its beauty. Many rich people liked to settle here, but a few months ago there was a big explosion here. Not only did it blow up the most luxurious mansion, but it also killed everyone inside. From then, the rich people started to move away. They felt Tandu was a dangerous place. This time, it was the richest, perhaps next time would be the second richest, the third, Emo, and when Dong didn't know that their explosion created such an effect. In the second hospital of Tandu, an extremely skinny woman laid on the patient bed. She looked at the ceiling with dumbed eyes. The medicine bottle was empty, but no nurse came to change it. A disheveled girl held a warm bottle and walked in very quickly. She saw the bottle of saline solution was empty, so she quickly went to call the nurse. The nurse wasted some time before finally taking a saline solution in but didn't switch to serum. Just when the girl wanted to say something, she was pulled by the woman on the bed. Seeing the girl come over, the woman sighed. Xiao Wei, let's go back. I don't want to stay here. There are some things I need to tell you when we go back. No, Mum. Don't worry. I will save up enough for the bills, you will get better, the girl said affirmatively. The woman shook her head, took out a bracelet from underneath the pillow and gave it to the girl. Keep this, it should be left behind by your family. Don't lose it, it's a pair, when you find the other pair, they would be your family. Mom, I have no family other than you. The girl held her mom's hands tightly while sobbing. Sigh. The woman on the bedside. After a while, she said, I'm afraid I won't be able to hold on someday. There are some things I need to tell you. The woman waved her head powerlessly and slowly said, 21 years ago, I went to Beijing myself. I was a few months pregnant back then, and I tried to find the man who ditched me. He knew I was pregnant but just left me some living fees and ignored me. I stayed in Beijing a while and finally knew he was the elder son of a big family and had a wife. His son was already over 10. I was really sad and angry at the same time, and that caused me to fall ill. Mom! The girl grabbed the woman's hands and worriedly called out. The woman on the bed had melancholic eyes as she continued. At that time, I lived in a temple. The head monk was very nice, and he got doctors to save me. But I lost the child in my stomach. Hearing this, the girl was more anxious. Her mother lost her child. Who was she then? The woman seemed to know what the girl was thinking and sadly said, "At that time, I rather died than lived, although my body recovered, but I had no desire to live." The head monk saw my desolation and tried to convince me. Later, when I was fully recovered, I wanted to become a nun. But at this moment, the head monk brought a girl that was barely one. He said someone left her at the door of the temple. The girl seemed to have understood something. Her face was pale. Was it not her mother in front of her? "Sai Beiwei, you are not my biological daughter. I don't know who your parents are either." At that time, the head monk just brought a jade bracelet and said 2 children were brought to the temple, but I don't know where the head monk sent the other. I was troubled at heart then and didn't ask. I heard the child was taken away by a young couple that came to burn incense. "Mom." The girl's eyes were red and swollen as she grabbed the woman's hand and said, "Mom, no matter what, you are my mother. You are my only kin in this world." The woman caressed the girl's hand amiably and said, "Bei Wei, I might not live for long, remember. That temple is called Luohong Temple. The head monk is called Wu Shan. When you go to Beijing, you need to go look." Then, when the woman was about to fall asleep, the girl quickly positioned the woman well and stood up. She didn't care about her birth. She just wanted to gather money to treat her mother. "May I ask, are you Tan Bei Wei?" A middle-aged man walked into the room and asked. Tang Bei Wei looked up with confusion at the man and nodded. "Yes, what's the matter?" The middle-aged man showed an amicable smile and said, "I have some things to discuss with you privately. Do you have the time?" Tang Bei Wei frowned. She had never seen this person before, but she didn't mind talking to him privately since she had nothing at hand. It was 3 at night and Yimo's car had arrived at a private mansion near Wuliang Mountain. What Yimo didn't expect was that this was the nest of Jing Shi. Despite Jing Shi saying this was her relative's place, Yimo didn't believe it at all. This woman thought of him as an idiot. Since he came, he would keep notice of Jing Shi all the time even when she showered. This wasn't the time to be a gentleman. He knew that this Jing Shi might be suspicious of him a little. Regardless, he couldn't relax. He must say that although she wasn't young, she still kept her looks as though she was a girl in her 20s. When she took off her clothes, her curves were very distinct, and her skin was milky white. The 2 big boobs on her chest didn't sag down at all. It was strangely tall standing. Yimo carried this woman before and knew how smooth and elastic her skin was. Sometimes, Yimo even doubted himself thinking perhaps Jing Shi was only 20. And he saw that most of her wounds had formed scabs, meaning her powder was quite potent. She was very precise when taking a shower, rubbing herself carefully and even looking at herself in the mirror. Yemo thought that this woman really loved beauty, but she was beautiful indeed. Looking at a naked woman showering with his spirit sense, even though he knew she was quite old and ruthless, he couldn't help but feel a little aroused. Just when Yemo thought nothing would happen and was about to take back his spirit sense, the nun started to feel her waist. It was the place Yemo tipped the powder. Yemo immediately began to worry. Was she that smart? Did she notice he did something there? Jing Shi put her finger on it, felt it and then smelt her finger. Yemo saw her frown and his heart started to beat faster, thinking this nun was so astute. However, he felt slightly relieved. She eventually didn't do anything out of the ordinary. She also took off her hand and felt it before carefully putting it aside. She seemed to treasure that band a lot. Suddenly, Jing Shi stopped all her movements and looked alert everywhere. Yemo was sure that she was sensitive to his spirit sense again, so he quickly took it back. "Dahu, are you there?" Yemo heard the nun call out in the living room. He knew the nun didn't feel safe about him and wanted to confirm where he was. He answered without hesitation. Then he finally felt relieved. Luckily, she didn't feel his spirit sense or he would have been exposed. Soon, she finished her shower and saw Yemo was still at the living room. She embarrassingly said, "I was a little afraid by myself, so I called out to you." Yemo smiled naively and said, "Don't worry, I'm going to sleep first." However, he was more careful. This nun was too alert. He was worried she would try something with him tomorrow. It would be best he left a mark on her tonight, and, when he helped her rub on the powder, the killing intent in her eyes were raw. This meant that in her eyes, people's lives were no different than grass. Emo cultivated for half the night and woke up very early and made breakfast. Then he waited for Xianxia. Xianxia woke up and saw the kanji and small dishes were very exquisitely made. She approved of Yemo's diligence and organization. This youth was not bad. She even didn't want to kill him. However, those who saw her skin must die no matter what. Seeing how he's so nice, she would let him die easier. Sister Zier, I cooked some kanji you haven't recovered yet, eat some. Emo took a bowl and chopsticks for Xianxia. Emichim, its tastes not bad, thank you, Dahu. Xianxia felt that this kanji was good indeed. Emo naively smiled and said, It's nothing. As long as you like it, I can cook more for you. Xianxia suddenly felt dazed. Why did these words sound so familiar? Many years ago, that man also said that, Sister Zier, as long as you like it, I can stay with you every day. But then, after he saw her Shijie, he gradually distanced himself from her and slept with her Shijie. This bitch couple, so what if she harmed her Shijie? That man still looked at the place her Shijie went into solitary training every day. Xianxia's face gradually grew bleak. Emo didn't expect his words to make the nun's face so bleak. He thought to himself that this woman was really unpredictable. Emo was scared that she was suddenly going to attack and his plan would be spoiled. So he quickly said, Sister Zier, hurry and eat. It's getting cold. I don't want to eat it. Dahu, wait here for me today. I'll go back and tell my master. If my master is willing, I'll come back and pick you up. Xianxia stood up and said. Emo's heart sunk. This woman didn't take him as he expected. She really was bad. Cross the river and take apart the bridge. He stood up worriedly and said, Sister Zier, but I also want to see. Xianxia smiled sweetly and pointed at his head with her finger. Dahu, would I lie to you? Trust me. I'll come pick you up at night and let my master see you once at least. Emo knew it was no point talking anymore and just tried to make a mark on her and follow. Thinking about this, he walked hopefully with a blushed face. Sister Zier, you're really pretty. I want hug you. Ha! Xianxia was shocked by Yemo's request. The honest who in her eyes dared to make such a request. She suddenly remembered when she took a shower last night and felt someone was peeking. Was it him? But she could tell he hadn't practiced ancient martial arts before. If he was peeking, how could she not know? But what if it was him peeking? Thinking about this, Xianxia looked at the hopeful Emo and realized he was a very handsome man. The features on his face were distinct, and his eyes were very clean. Looking at Emo, Xianxia felt a sense of familiarity. That time, he also looked at her hopefully like this, saying, Sister Zier, you're really pretty. I want to hug you. Is it him? Xianxia had this sense of fire in her heart. Ever since that man appeared, she had never felt like this before. Emo saw that Xianxia looked at him dazed. He thought not good, he couldn't wait for her to reject. If she did, it would be impossible for him to hug her and make the mark. Emo decisively walked up and hugged Xianxia, who was already a little blushed on the face. Xianxia's heart was already racing, and Emo just suddenly hugged her like this. Just when she wanted to rage, she felt that masculine scent of yang, and her body softened. Yesterday when Emo carried her for 2 hours, there was only killing intent in her heart. But now, she actually felt a little lustful. Emo immediately felt Xianxia's heart starting to feel hot and soft. He didn't think of anything else and quickly made a spirit sense mark on her clothes. It was very fast and he was done. Then, he felt relieved and let go of his hand but noticed that Xianxia had closed her arms around his waist. Her eyes seemed strange. Was this woman aroused? Emo felt shocked and just when he wanted to talk, he saw Xianxia, with misty eyes and breathing heavily, say, Brother Xie, carry me into the room. She was aroused indeed and thought of him as her brother Qi. Emo didn't want to go in bed with this woman. If he lost his virginity to this ruthless nun, he would rather do it himself. Although the nun was very enticing and Emo a bit aroused too, he once cultivated to foundation establishment. It wasn't the first time he was attracted to a woman. He could even resist Ning Qingxue, much less a nun that he didn't like. He was someone of principle. If he didn't like the person, he could still control such urges. However, Yemo wouldn't waste the opportunity. He reached his hand into Jingxi's hair and made another mark on her hair tie. Then he shook Jingxi. "Sister Zir, are you okay?" Jingxi was just looking at the man of her dreams slowly walk towards her and hug her and saying all those lovely things in her ear. But just when she was aroused, she was woken up by Yemo. Jingxi immediately reacted. She looked at Yemo for a moment but froze really quick. She let go of her hands and felt her hair. Then, her eyes were hateful again. She stared at Yemo for a long while before saying, "To who?" Just then, "Oh, never mind, I'm going to rest. Wait for me to come back. Don't worry about my master. I won't treat you bad." Jingxi turned around, and when she walked out of the mansion, she even felt lost herself. She actually didn't get angry just then, nor did she kill Dahu. With her current recovery, it would be all too easy to kill a normal person. She shook her hand. Other than the man who betrayed her, it was the first time she showed mercy. Yu Lian said she killed that man, but only she knew she didn't. However, she did flirt with other men in front of him, but she killed them afterwards. Yemo followed carefully but not daring to follow too close. She was already marked by him, so even if he didn't follow closely, he wouldn't lose her. Jingxi took out a phone and made a call. Yemo didn't even notice she had a phone when he carried her yesterday. This meant she took it last night. Yemo was too far and could barely hear the words. "Throw under the cliff." Despite not hearing her words clearly, he could guess it. This vicious woman was calling people to kill him and throw him under the cliff. Since she was calling people over, he couldn't keep following her and needed to wait for the men she called. Yemo came back to the mansion. He didn't wait long, and it was only an hour and a car drove here. A man in his 30s came out. He wasn't very sturdy looking, but Yemo could tell he was yellow-level elementary stage. "Are you Dahu?" the man asked Yemo. Yemo nodded. "Yeah. Who are you?" The man laughed and said, "I'm Tianpa. Zir Sher Mei told me to bring you up the mountain. Her master had agreed but needs to check to see if you can cultivate. If you can't, then she can't do anything either." Yemo nodded. He knew the man came to kill him, but he also knew that he wouldn't be able to ask about anything useful from this man, so he didn't bother. Yemo didn't ask, and Tianpa spoke very little. The route he took was very steep. There weren't even roads in many places. After walking for nearly 2 hours, Tianpa brought Yemo to a cliff and said, "Brother, you've got quite good stamina." Yemo made a breathing action and smiled. "I'm okay. I used to climb mountains a lot." Then Yemo scanned down the cliff with his spirit sense. He estimated it to be a few hundred meters tall, and it was steep like it was cut by a knife. Yemo just found a small protrusion at around 50 meters, but there were no landing spaces at around 100 meters. He couldn't scan any further. There's something here?" Tianpa walked to the cliff and curiously spoke. Yemo also walked up while asking, "What is it? Let me see." And he intentionally gave his back to Tianpa, knowing that the latter was about to attack. As soon as Yemo walked to the cliffside, Tianpa pushed on his back. Yemo screamed and fell down like a shooting star. Yemo calculated the position and tapped his feet at the 50-meter protrusion. Then, he immediately found there was a ditch 70 meters further down. Yemo kept falling until he neared the ditch and used wind-controlling technique to go in. Then, he quickly took out the sword and dug the stone, hiding his body. As soon as Yemo hid, Tianpa said from above, "Brother, don't blame me. I'm just following orders. Too bad you liked the wrong person." Then, Tianpa picked up the phone and called, "It's done." "Oh, okay. I'll wait for you at Liangnong Cliff then." Yemo heard and felt joyful. It seemed that none was coming. This was good. Otherwise, after Tianpa left, although he had spirit sense mark, it wouldn't be easy to find Jingxi. After all, the geology of Wuliang Mountain was too complicated, and he still couldn't fly yet. Yemo didn't wait for long. It was only an hour before he heard Jingxi's voice. Unfortunately, he was more than 100 meters down and couldn't reach up with his spirit sense. Very good, you did well. There's a basic cultivation method here. Take it. As soon as Xianxia finished speaking, Yemo heard Tianpo's gratitude. Not long after, there was the exclamation of Tianpo. Xianxia, you actually killed me, Then, the sound suddenly stopped and Yemo saw a figure fall down extremely fast. After a long while, he heard the thud from the bottom of the cliff. He thought this woman was really strong, but he couldn't understand why she didn't kill him herself. Why take all the trouble? He kept notice of the footsteps. As soon as Xianxia left, he would come up and follow her. But after a long while, Yemo didn't hear her footsteps. He was bemused and thought to himself, did she leave? Just when Yemo was confused, Xianxia's voice sounded again. To who? Although you saved me, you looked at my body. I swore that men who looked at my body will die. But I had feelings for you. Did you know I really wanted to give myself to you that morning? But you woke up me. You really are dumb. Tianpo killed you, and I have avenged you. Rest in peace. Yemo was so angry he almost spat blood. This woman was really shameless. It was she who called Tianpo to kill him now, yet she said it so modestly. What sort of revenge was this? You say I'm very pretty. Do I really look pretty? But my heart is already taken by that man. Sorry. To who? Perhaps I'll come see you when I'm free. Xianxia's voice stopped and it was a long silence. Yemo sighed. This woman was crazy. A completely mad woman. He was just worried for Luo Susu. Could she be well living with a crazy woman like this? It would be best if this mad woman had no connections with Luo Susu at all. Then after a while, when Yemo was impatient, Xianxia suddenly started laughing hysterically. Xianxia, did you think you could avoid me after sending your daughter out and taking her back as your disciple? You never would have thought she will end up like you soon. Ha ha ha. Your daughter is really like you, not a good thing either. She just went out once and is thinking about men and can't even calm her heart down. Sometimes, I really want to see what sort of man your daughter loves. Xianxia, do you know what I want to do the most? I want your daughter to see me with her man in bed. Too bad you're dead. If you didn't die, would you be very shocked seeing the man your daughter love in bed with me? Although I stayed virgin for that bastard so many years, I don't mind giving my first time to the man of your daughter. Ha ha ha. Yemo shook his head. This nun was really unreasonable. She lost in love but was dragging this onto the offspring of her Xianxia. Now, she wouldn't even let go of her Xianxia's daughter. She probably never lived outside. If she lived in the city, perhaps she would have killed herself n times due to loss of love. Yemo thought and felt pity for this nun. She was a woman crazed with love but just followed the wrong man. Just when Yemo was getting impatient again, there was finally the sound of the nun leaving. Yemo immediately got up and tapped multiple times on the smooth cliff face. With the help of wind-controlling technique, he came to the top of the cliff very fast. Looking at the something, he was stunned. Yemo didn't expect P11 to be so prepared. There was a burning basic ancient martial arts cultivation method and a wine bottle. There was a cup next to the wine bottle which was filled. It seemed this nun kept to her promise and really got him a cultivation method. Fuck. Yemo had black lines down his head. If others didn't know about the full story, they would have thought he was her man and accidentally fell off the cliff and she came to cry. Yemo kicked these things down the cliff thinking go sacrifice this to that Tianpo. After kicking these away, Yemo didn't dare to waste time and followed closely behind Xianxia. Although he didn't dare to follow too close, he wouldn't lose her with the spirit mark. The places she walked were all steep mountain roads. If Yemo didn't have wind-controlling technique or made the mark on her, he wouldn't be able to keep up. It was nearly 3 hours later, but Xianxia was still running in the mountain roads. Yemo was speechless. This serenity was really hidden deep. They had been walking for so long. It was another hour or so when Xianxia came to a cliff. It was covered in clouds. Yemo thought, did she want to suicide and jump? He jumped because he had wind-controlling technique, but even if this nun was Earth level, she would die jumping off now. Just when Yemo was still guessing, Xianxia sat down and after half an hour, she really jumped down. Yemo had a fright Why did this woman run here to suicide? Was this place Serenity? Emo waited for a while and made sure he wouldn't be found before looking at the edge of the cliff. But soon he understood. There were metal chains 10 of meters down, and it was covered by the clouds. When Emo looked again, the metal chain had disappeared. What was this? He scanned down his spirit sense and felt the metal chain appear in his spirit sense again. He didn't know the end of it, but obviously, its length far exceeded the range of his spirit sense. The nun left along this chain. Emo thought of Luosusu. Did she have to go past this chain each time she came out? She was only yellow level, so it was very dangerous for her to come out. And he couldn't see the metal chain before and could only scan it with his spirit sense. This meant the metal chains were placed strangely, perhaps according to some formation allowing it to show sometimes under the sun. Emo also understood now why Xianxia sat down for half an hour after coming. She was waiting for when the metal chain could be seen again. It seemed this chain could only been seen once in a while, and people could only jump when they could see it. Otherwise, if they misstepped, they would fall to death. The time the chain could be seen was definitely short. Although Emo had spirit sense and could see the chains at any time, he still wanted to see if he was right. He also sat down for half an hour, but the metal chain still didn't appear. It seemed the time interval was more than half an hour. Since it wasn't half an hour, Emo couldn't be bothered waiting. He didn't need to see the chains with his eyes, so he jumped. After going for more than 100 meters, he came to the opposite site. It was a small platform. Other than this platform, there was nowhere else to go. Xianxia came to this platform and disappeared? How could that be possible? Emo looked around and was sure this was a cliff. There was nothing suspicious, and the bottom couldn't be seen. Emo scanned with his spirit sense and soon noticed something wrong. There was a palm-sized sink 2 meters above the platform. It seemed quite strange. Emo jumped up and felt the sink. It was smooth on the outside but uneven on the inside. Emo put his hand on his nose and smelt. There was a faint aroma. Emo immediately knew who that aroma belonged to. It was Xianxia. He was still hugging her this morning and knew her scent very well. This sink was probably some sort of trigger. The sink was uneven, a bit like a keyhole. This meant that Xianxia had something that she could put in the sink and act like a key. No wonder the hidden sects were so hard to find. They were in such a distant place and had such a strange key. Normally, people definitely wouldn't be able to go in without a key. But Emo was different. He could go in even if there was a formation here. However, if a formation really existed in this place, Emo was unsure too. Because too many formations needed spirit stones to supply power. Without it, only jade stone could be used, but jade stone could only be used to make the lowest level formations. It definitely wouldn't be able to hide sections. There weren't spirit stones on Earth, this Emo knew. Well, at least he hadn't seen one up until now. Emo sat on the platform and took out a blob of black metal. It was an ordinary block of iron which Emo bought at Luotsong. He raised his hand, a gust of fire enveloped the metal. Soon it melted into something like a black plate. Emo looked at the sink with his spirit sense, and in less than half an hour, a metal plate appeared in his hand. If the person who set this trap up saw Emo make a key in just half an hour, they would die of fury. After making the plate, Emo jumped up and inserted the plate. It was perfect and fit closely in the sink without any crevice, but Emo waited a while and there was no reaction. Emo thought, was there another trigger? He casually twisted the metal plate. Then he immediately noticed that on the cliff face 5 meters below, a small tunnel appeared. Emo called himself an idiot. A key needed to be turned. He quickly took the metal plate and jumped over. It was a stone tunnel inside the cliff, and after walking for about 50 meters, the view opened up as he came out. There was a twisted valley road that extended in. Emo walked a while and the grass and trees started appearing. There were even a few bunnies running across occasionally. Emo sighed. Although this wasn't a small world like Taoist Xian said, it was definitely well hidden. The ancestor of Serenity who moved the sect here was a genius. If only he had a place like this now. Emo walked along the road for about an hour or so and came to the foot of a mountain. The region broadened up, and he could still barely see the sky. There were many farmlands excavated out with vegetables planted in them. He walked along the mountain for a few hundred meters and a large pact of buildings appeared. The big front door had the huge word, serene. Seemed very ancient and calm. Emo stopped walking. So this was serenity. The environment seemed not bad, and it had the feeling of a paradise immortals lived in. What should he do next? Immediately go look for her or make a plan first. Any nun who came out from Serenity like Jing, she was an Earth-level master, so Emo didn't think he was invincible here. If that bunch old nuns were easy to talk to, it would be fine. If not, he could never return. They weren't easy to talk to for sure. Just look at Jing Shi, that crazy woman. Emo had the subconscious thought of not letting Luo Susu stay here. No matter what, he needed Luo Susu to agree. If she didn't want to leave, he had no choice either. After all, they only met once, so it could be said it was a single-sided love. He needed to go for sure, but before this, he needed self-protective measures. Otherwise, if he saw Jing Shi, perhaps he would be thrown down the cliff before he saw Luo Susu. How could he protect himself? With his current power, he was still no match for Jing Shi. Perhaps when he was at the tertiary level of stage 3 he could fight her, but now he was only middle level. He had some simple techniques, but that wouldn't be a threat for that woman. And perhaps this woman wasn't the strongest. He was a cultivator, and his only assurance where he could rely on was his techniques. It wasn't plausible to wait till his cultivation level got higher. The spirit chi here was so scarce. When would he be able to progress? Although he had the 1,000-year snow lotus seed and a cauldron, it wasn't so easy to concoct pills, plus, even if he did, he needed time to digest them. The only thing he could rely on was his techniques, but a single fireball or wind blade wasn't quite useful. The only thing he could rely on was the element of surprise, but even that would only work once. What if he had large amounts of fireball and wind blade? Thinking about this, he had an idea. During battle, if he threw a large amount of fireball charms or wind blade charms, it would be like many of him fighting the one enemy. Although it was hard to make the fireball charm and the power would be half, there was power in quantity. Yes, he would use this hooligan way of fighting. Thinking about an Earth-level nun being surrounded by countless fireball and jumping up and down, Emo wanted to laugh. I'm a hooligan. How can I be scared of a few nuns?